Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Brisbane Regional Championships, the first regional level event in the Oceania circuit. We had a really exciting day one where a lot of hard fought battles, and now here we are in the second day, phase two of the competition.
Yeah. I mean, I'm super excited. I don't know about you. Phase two, we've got 2 rounds in the second day, essentially. So we've got 2 rounds in the Swiss format. Then following that, we have an asymmetric top cut. In the asymmetric top cut, anyone who achieves at least 8 wins across phase one and phase two will make it into the asymmetric top cut. The best performing players of those will receive a bye in that asymmetric. In the asymmetric top cut will then go through to the top 8. They'll battle it out. From there, we'll go down to a top 4 and then down to our final match where we will determine our Brisbane Regional Champion for 2026.
Yes, of course. A lot of players had a very tough time getting those 6 wins to advance to phase two. And we've whittled down the competition to 31 of the greatest players for the weekend in the Brisbane Regional Championships.
Yeah, exactly. So 31 players still with everything to play for. But that being said, are there any players that are automatically included in the asymmetric top cut already?
Yes, of course. So you need those 6 wins to advance, but if you've already got them, you may as well continue to win. And we saw Joji Kaida, that's the final...
8 wins to advance.
Yeah, 8 wins to advance to the top cut, six wins to advance to phase two. But we saw Joji Kaida already achieve 8 wins, being the only remaining undefeated player. And we do have a handful of players with 7-1 with the round 9 and round 10 today. If they're able to achieve a win in either of those rounds, they've got that position. But of course, the players at 6-2, both rounds, they've got to win both rounds. Both rounds, you can say you win and you progress further, but if you lose, unfortunately, you can't get into that top asymmetrical bracket.
Yeah, it's really tricky being one of those players in one of these tournaments, especially if it happens on the first day in phase one. Once you get to 2 losses, you can't lose another game for the rest of the tournament. At any point, once you've reached 2 losses, the next loss means that that's your run done, unfortunately. So obviously those players with no losses at all or just 1 loss are a bit more comfortable. Those players with 2 losses, they're going to be desperate to get every single win that they can. But it's definitely not unthinkable that one of those players would make it through all the way to the very end. We've seen it time and time again. Those players just scraping into the second phase with those 6 wins and 2 losses, just managed to win out from there, go all the way through to become the champion. So it's really anyone's game today.
Yeah, absolutely. I could not be more excited to see how the remaining rounds play out. We're going to crown a champion in just a few rounds, to be honest. We've got those 2 rounds, and then you've explained we've got we call it the asymmetrical top cut. We're not sure how many players. It'll be around 8 and 16, and then top 8, top 4, and then the finals. One of the players is going to walk away with the trophy.
With the regional championship trophy, which is something that everyone here, I think, is really coveting. Everyone shows up really to attempt to be the very best, like no one ever was. And so, they're all hungry for it. Everyone's keen. They're all going to be vying for that trophy, for that invitation to the World Championships, for the purse that they win. I believe it's $10,000 for the victory. So that's nothing to sneer at either. So definitely a lot to be playing for here for all 31 players that we've got today.
Yeah, exactly. We saw a lot of players come on with their interviews, and if you ask them early in the tournament, they're like, yes, of course we'd like to win. But as we're getting closer, the vision's starting to get more clear for these players, like in the early stages, especially after taking an early loss, it's quite a tall hill to climb. You've got to win maybe 6 rounds in a row if you start 0-2, for example. But for these players, it's like you can count the number of rounds you've got to win remaining on one hand. For some of these players, some of these players, it's still 6. But there's a bunch of players who need to win 5. Joji needs to win 4 or 3 if he gets that bye in the elimination stages.
Absolutely. I mean, once you get to this stage in the tournament, you really just start being able to taste it. It's so close. It's within grasp. So we're going to go straight to our round 1 here. I know our players are rearing to kick off. So we've got 2 fantastic players on the coverage for you all today. We've got Caleb Wijasina and we've got Toby Conglin.
Yeah, very interesting. I know that team, particularly from Toby, we've had quite a few opportunities to see these 6 Pokemon together. It's the very standard. We know them pretty well.
Yeah, that popular Australian team with that Ursaluna, Porygon 2, and the Killer Watchel. We've seen it before. We love it. Harry and I both love it. Caleb's side, on the other hand, we've got what's referred to within the community as Lilycole. That's where you pair Lilligant and Torkoal. Lilligant having that chlorophyll ability, which doubles its speed and sun. Torkoal, which sets the sun. And I've got a lot of fun interactions from there. You pair that with a Trick Room team. So you've got the Indeedee and the Farigiraf for setting that Trick Room. Then you've got the Hatterene and the Incineroar. Incineroar obviously works well on any team. And the Hatterene works incredibly well under Trick Room with its very low speed stat and very high damage output.
Yeah, one thing I really want to highlight between these two teams is, yes, we've seen a lot of Incineroars throughout the day. Most of them, Citrus Berry, Safety Goggles, maybe Assault Vest, using Fake Out and all those supporting moves. But the two Incineroars that we see in front of us they couldn't be any more different, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Like the one on Toby's side is the Assault Vest. We've seen it a few times with the Fake Out, the Flare Blitz, the Knockoff, and the U-Turn. But the one on Caleb's side is actually holding that Clear Amulet, which is a really, really good way to kind of ignore the Intimidate boost on the other side. But it's got quite an interesting Terror type here. It's actually opting to terrestrialize to the Fighting type because it is running that move Close Combat. Now, do you have any insight what that could be particularly for?
Look, to be honest, after some of the games we saw yesterday, I think it's probably to deal with other Incineroar. I think pairing the Clear Amulet with that Fighting type coverage just really allows you to deal with it. We saw time and time again yesterday, Incineroar, once they were left on their own, they were just entirely taken out by opposing Incineroar because the Intimidate to jock their attack stat, and most Incineroar don't actually really bring an attacking move that can hit an Incineroar for a lot of damage. You know, they bring the Knockoff and the Flare Blitz, both of which are resisted by the Incineroar's own Dark and Fire types. Whereas this Incineroar, obviously, it's now immune to that Intimidate from the opposing Incineroar with its own Clear Amulet. And also, it has that close combat in order to be dealing a lot of damage to that opposing Incineroar, hitting that Dark typing for super effective. So I get the feeling that's probably the main draw there. Obviously, however, I think a lot of people use Incineroar as that more supporting option, but it does actually have quite a decent physical attack stat. So it's just able to kind of utilize that, you know, the strong coverage moves, I guess, that Flare Blitz, that close combat, that Knockoff, they're all hitting quite hard. So I think when you put a lot of offensive investment into it, start running that Clear Amulet, you can actually start swinging for a lot of damage. So I think that's what Caleb's looking for here, along with obviously the ability to still leverage the powerful ability Intimidate, use the Fake Out that Incineroar gets access to. And it looks like we're actually going to the game here. The leads are going to be Indeedee and Incineroar on Caleb's side of the field, and Toby leading with a Kilowattrel and the Amoonguss.
Yeah, so this lead from Toby, a very interesting lead. It's both the fastest Pokemon he has available to him in the Kilowattrel, beside the slowest Pokemon available to him in the Amoonguss. It looks like he's trying to get some Spore pressure, I'd say, with that Amoonguss to try and slow down the game. Because we know these Trick Room strategies, they're quite aggressive and they're trying to get that Trick Room up and make the most of those turns. But putting a Pokemon to sleep can be quite devastating in slowing down the clock that they provide there. On the other side, we've got that Indeedee and that Incineroar. So this one was the Clear Amulet Incineroar. So maybe it's a little bit more offensively trained, trying to take some damage straight away. And the Indeedee potentially trying to set the Trick Room, potentially could go for a Follow Me for some redirection there.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely expect that part of the reason we see this Amoonguss is to prevent that Trick Room from going up. This Indeedee doesn't have the safety goggles. And we do see the Air Slash come out from the Kilowattrel, and Indeedee opting for a Psychic there rather than attempting to set the Trick Room, dealing a decent chunk of damage to that Amoonguss. That is, however, going to activate the Citrus Berry. Amoonguss is going to get a fair amount of that of health back. And there's a knockoff from the Incineroar, which is unfortunately not going to do a lot of damage just due to the fact that Amoonguss's item was just used when it consumed the Citrus Berry, reducing the damage of the knockoff. And then Incineroar is going to go to sleep there thanks to the Amoonguss Spore that you called out earlier.
Yeah, so that's a great turn here from Toby, getting a crucial Spore, as I mentioned, putting a Pokemon to sleep, because Caleb's team, quite offensive, so you can't really afford to be wasting turns waiting for that Incineroar to wake up. And now there is not that much offensive pressure on Caleb's side, because as you mentioned, no safety goggles and then Indeedee. And Indeedee is not known for its capabilities of doing damage, and it does want to set the Trick Room, but there's not really much you can do to stop the Spore there.
No, exactly. Definitely a threat. And I think Caleb picks up on that. He switches out the Indeedee, trying to reposition here. That's actually a really smart move. If the Amoonguss does go for a Spore into the Hatterene, it won't work due to the Hatterene's ability Magic Bounce. However, I think Toby may have made a prediction of something like this, so is instead switching out his own Pokemon, bringing in the Ursaluna there.
And we see the Thunderbolt coming out into the Hatterene, doing a lot at the end, getting the paralysis on the Hatterene, leaving it on only 18 hit points. Probably not what Caleb was hoping to see there as the Incineroar remains asleep and the Ursaluna's Flame Orb activates.
Yeah, so there's quite a lot of damage coming out from that Thunderbolt there. The paralysis potentially unfortunate for Caleb. Could actually be a boon, paralysis halving the speed stat of the Pokemon. If the Trick Room goes up, the Hatterene will be even slower under Trick Room. But the other thing that Caleb has to watch out for is now that 25% chance on any given move, the Hatterene would not be able to move due to that paralysis. So with one Pokemon paralyzed, another Pokemon asleep, I think Caleb will be sweating here a little bit, essentially just trying to figure out, how much of this game am I actually going to be able to participate in with my Pokemon, or are they just going to be prevented from moving because of those statuses? So we'll have to see how long that Incineroar's asleep for. We'll have to see if the Hatterene is actually able to move, or if it will be paralyzed.
And we've got the Terrestrialization coming out here. I believe this is into the Incineroar, that interesting Terrestrialization option that we spoke about before.
There we go. We do have the Fighting Terrestrialization come out game 1 on that Incineroar, probably looking to increase its offensive pressure and also its defensive capabilities. Thunderbolt coming out there dealing quite a lot to that Incineroar, and there's the Earthquake. It's not going to hit the Kilowatt. It's going to pick up a double knockout into the Incineroar and the Hatterene. So that's a very, very strong turn for Toby there.
Yeah, Toby in a very, very commanding position in this game, taking both knockouts, and we still have not seen a Trick Room yet. So no Pokemon knocked out on Toby's side, barely any damage, if any damage, on his Pokemon, and he's only got to respond to 2 Pokemon in the back. You can see the Indeedee and the Torkoal, which the Torkoal is known for being quite slow, so I don't think it's going to get too much of an opportunity to do damage. It can fire off those heat waves, potentially a lot of damage with the Drought setting up the Sun and the Choice Specs.
Yeah, I mean, having those Choice Specs does allow Torkoal to output massive damage, but it needs the ability to actually move to get that damage off. As you called out, it's very slow. It's facing down 2 very strong attackers. That Kilowatt with a +2 special attack for being intimidated at the start of the game. And the Ursaluna, as we just saw, massive damage with those Earthquakes. And I think there, Caleb really saw the writing on the wall, right? He said, yeah, my Torkoal is not going to be able to get any damage off before it just gets taken out by that Kilowatt and by that Ursaluna. So I'm just going to go to game 2, try to reposition, try to reassess, and come back with a stronger positioning.
Yeah, that was quite a quick game there. I think it was a good lead with the Kilowatt specifically to catch out that Intimidate, triggering the competitive ability, giving the 2 stages of special attack. I think the big issue with Caleb's side was he was not able to get that Trick Room up. It was really struggling to get to deal with that Amoonguss.
Yes.
Because without Amoonguss there, it was just threatening a Spore on the only Pokemon capable of setting the Trick Room in the Indeedee. But if there was a lead, maybe like Indeedee and Hatterene, the Hatterene can click Trick Room and it's not threatened by that Spore, as you called out with the Magic Bounce ability.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there we, in the later game as well, we really saw the strength of that Kilowatt and the Ursaluna. We're seeing why it is so popular over here in Australia. Is that ability to just launch out those massive Earthquakes with that Ursaluna, and Kilowatt just as that flying type, completely untouched by that, and is just able to continue to set those Tailwinds, to start doling out that damage with those Tailwinds, with that Air Slash, really start putting a lot of pressure on the opponent's side, while the Ursaluna just sends out those Earthquakes, Kilowatt completely unfazed.
Yeah, exactly. When Caleb was on the back foot, Ursaluna was exactly the Pokemon that Toby needed to convert that into a win. Being able to just click Earthquake, hit both targets, nothing really resisting it too much. A lot of Pokemon being weak to it, and totally ignoring the threat of Follow Me. Super effective on the Torkoal we saw, super effective on the Incineroar before it terrestrialized, but by the time it terrestrialized, they'd taken too much damage. It was still in range of the Earthquake coming out from the Ursaluna.
Yeah, absolutely. So it'll be really interesting to see if there's any repositioning here. But we do have game 2. We have Incineroar and Amoonguss coming out this time into the same leads from Caleb's side of the Indeedee and the Incineroar.
Yeah, so similar leads, but no Kilowatt, which means no competitive boost on turn 1. But that Amoonguss is still threatening a Spore into that Indeedee, or we saw in the previous game, the Incineroar on turn 1. Maybe still trying to set that Trick Room, but setting a Trick Room when the opponent has an Amoonguss can be quite difficult.
Yeah, very tricky. If you don't have a Grass typing or those safety goggles item, you are vulnerable to the Spore, and going to sleep is obviously not a good time for any player to have to deal with. So it'll be interesting to see how Caleb deals with the Spore threat here. Obviously, he is going to try to want to get that Trick Room up in order to get the speed priority and to leverage the offensive pressure that his team is able to bring. But it'll be very tricky for him to actually achieve that given this position at the moment.
Yeah, but one thing I do want to call out is that Indeedee does have the Terra type of Grass, so there is a potential to block a Spore if he chooses to go for it. He can go for Follow Me to catch the Spore, or he can just go for the Trick Room. So we've got a Terrestrialization coming out here in the Indeedee.
There it is. It is the Grass Terrestrialization on the Indeedee, as you called out. So very good call there, Harry.
Yep, so this may be looking to catch a Spore with a Follow Me, or maybe hoping to get that Trick Room, as we said. And then we've actually got the Responding Terrestrialization here coming out from the Amoonguss. So removing that weakness to fire from the Flare Blitz potentially, but also from the Psychic if the Indeedee chooses to go for that.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Toby really kind of respecting the Flare Blitz from the Incineroar. There's the Flare Blitz on the opposing Incineroar. It's not going to take out the Indeedee. Despite being a super effective hit, Indeedee is going to tough it out, stick around. Knockoff coming out into the opposing Incineroar. That is going to knock off its Assault Vest, which means it's going to take more from special moves in the future. Spore going off is unfortunately not going to affect Caleb's Indeedee, and Indeedee is going to get the Trick Room up.
Yeah, so that Intimidate coming out, reducing the damage of that Flare Blitz, crucial for Indeedee hanging on there with that super effective. Covering the Terra Grass with the Flare Blitz, but also the Spore if they don't Terra Grass. One crucial thing that I want to call out is, we were talking about Magic Arts before. Yeah. Amoonguss is typically immune to Spore, but after the Terrestrialization of the Water type, if a Spore goes into a slot that switches to, say, Hatterene, the Amoonguss is actually going to fall asleep. So we've got the Follow Me from the Indeedee here.
Yep. Once again, just respecting the Spore, keeping the Incineroar safe from the opposing Spore. There it is. It is going to go into the Indeedee, which is now immune because of its Grass typing. Once again, Caleb's Incineroar is going to get a knockoff off, dealing respectable damage into that Amoonguss. And there's the U-turn from the Incineroar, finally getting that knockout on the Indeedee, which is, unfortunately for Toby, a little too late, as Indeedee has done exactly what it needs to do.
Yeah, perhaps that knockout into the Indeedee is exactly what Caleb wants, because you've only got a few turns in Trick Room to get that damage on the board, and this gives the perfect switch into potentially Hatterene or maybe Torkoal, those typically very offensive threats that Caleb's choosing to use for the hard Trick Room strategy.
Yeah, exactly. So that Citrus Berry being knocked off on the Amoonguss, the opposing Incineroar having taken some damage, and the ability to bring in one of his powerful sweepers, I think put Caleb in a really, really good position here.
Yeah, for sure. So he's just trying to turn all these Trick Room turns into damage. You've only got a limited amount, but if you're in Trick Room, the two Pokemon that I'd love to see is Hatterene and Torkoal. I think very, very powerful, capable of doing a lot of damage and putting so much pressure on. So we see the Hatterene coming in here, threatening Fairy and Psychic type damage.
Yeah, exactly. Hatterene, nigh unstoppable on that Psychic terrain, unless you do have a Dark type, which we do know that Toby has in the back. The ability to just be outputting massive damage with those expanding forces on that Psychic terrain, spread damage, hitting both opponents, is boosted by the terrain. Hatterene having a very high base special attack stat, and also boosted by that Life Orb item that Hatterene is holding as well. It means that if you're not careful, this Hatterene is just going to run over Toby's entire team.
Yeah, a crucial interaction we might see here is the Hatterene and the Amoonguss, which one is faster, because if you, or on Trick Room, because if the Amoonguss moves first, you can threaten the Spore, but typically we tend to see Hatterenes moving first in the Trick Room conditions. We see the Amoonguss switching out for the Incineroar here, that immunity to Psychic, as you call it out.
Yes, yeah, exactly right. And the Incineroar's Clear Amulet paying dividends on Caleb's side of the field, not being dropped by the Intimidate. And there's the Protect on the Golden Go. Like they're really wanting to keep itself safe from the knockoff and the Flare Blitz coming out from Caleb's Incineroar.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got the close combat actually. Wow,
he's made the read. Incineroar switches into that slot, and Caleb says, "You know what? I'm expecting Incineroar to come into that slot. I'm just going to click the close combat, as we called out at the start of the game. That's exactly what it's there for, and it's doing exactly what it needs to do."
Yeah, so the close combat, correctly identifying that Toby has a really, really strong defensive play, because the defensive plays where nothing happens, it seems like nothing happens, but one crucial thing that happens if you catch the Expanding Force and the Protect catches the knockoff is that's one more turn of Trick Room gone. And once they run out, the momentum shifts firmly into Toby's favor.
Oh, exactly. I think Toby will be in a really good spot if he's able to get through to the end of this Trick Room still intact. But the question will be, is he able to do that? You know, he's facing two very, very strong threats. Golden Go no longer has access to the Protect in front of Incineroar with Knockoff and Flare Blitz. Hatterene threatening those Expanding Forces, although it will be interesting to see if it is able to pick out the Knockout into the Amoonguss. But there's the skill swap coming out from Hatterene, not something we often see there. It's going to swap Intimidate onto the Hatterene, dropping the attack on the other side of the field. Not particularly relevant here, but very funny. However, it is going to skill swap Magic Bounce onto his own Incineroar, which means that Spore is going to go right back into the Amoonguss and it's going to put the Amoonguss to sleep. That is quality.
Wow, that is simply an amazing play. And as a Flare Blitz knocks out the Golden Go, Toby not expecting that because he was expecting that Incineroar to fall asleep, wasn't he?
Exactly, that was going to be a very good turn for him. Hatterene not going to be able to pick up the knockout with the expanding force there, and then Amoonguss was going to be able to put the Incineroar to sleep. Incineroar wasn't going to be able to do anything to the Golden Go because it was asleep. However, that skill swap, Magic Bounce onto the Incineroar, send that Spore right back where it came from. Please return to sender, putting that Amoonguss to sleep and just allowing Incineroar unfettered, Flare Blitz right into that Golden Go. That is quality Pokemon.
Yeah, Magic Bounce Incineroar. I thought Intimidate was what made it good, but imagine Magic Bounce reflecting that Spore.
Please don't put the idea of Incineroar having Magic Bounce into my head. It's strong enough, okay?
I don't know, maybe, yeah. So we've got the switch from Incineroar switching into that Torkoal. Those Trick Room turns are expiring. We're losing the opportunity of Torkoal doing damage with those Trick Room turns. Expiring as we set the sun here. We've got 4 Pokemon in play, all of them very slow, very known for their Trick Room capabilities. The Ursaluna going for the Protect there, not wanting to take damage, trying to stall out that Trick Room one more turn.
Amoonguss is fast asleep, having received a taste of its own medicine there. Hatterene with a skill swap to get... I'm actually not sure what's going on here. Oh, it's the Intimidate.
Yes.
It's the Intimidate from the Torkoal.
Yeah, this is one of the most confusing boards I've ever seen in my life. We've got the Intimidate. Wait, what is it? The Intimidate Torkoal and the Drought Hatterene. Have you ever seen this before?
I can't say that I have. But that is... Hatterene is now in a less of an offensive position than it was, having lost the access to that expanding force. However, Caleb's in a pretty comfortable position. That Ursaluna is at that -1 attack just due to the Intimidate that came out from the Torkoal, I guess. And Caleb also has the ability to switch the Incineroar back in, intimidate the Ursaluna even more, and just really weaken the offensive power that Ursaluna is typically able to provide.
Yeah, so I think that play is crucial because we're trying to get that second Trick Room set up. And the key threat to the Trick Room being set up again is going to be that Ursaluna. So getting 2 Intimidates, one from the Incineroar, one from the Torkoal, reducing the damage of that Ursaluna. So we have the Incineroar switching in with the second Intimidate as the Headlong Rush targets the Incineroar and takes the knockout.
It is going to pick up the knockout. That is unfortunate for Caleb. So obviously bringing in the Incineroar gets that Intimidate off. That is quite good. However, I think what Caleb would have really wanted above anything else is the ability for Incineroar to stay on the field, even on a very slight amount of health, just to threaten that Fake Out. Because that Fake Out is going to keep the Hatterene safe. However, we are going to see the Trick Room come out from the Hatterene then.
Yeah, very interesting. But there is one crucial thing. All those skill swaps, there's no more Magic Bounce on either of these Pokemon. So those Spore pressures are going to be... If the Amoonguss can find its wake up, it might be able to put a few things to sleep. There is so much offensive pressure coming out from both of these Pokemon right now in Trick Room with a lot of turns of Trick Room.
Absolutely, and we see both Pokemon on Caleb's side of the field with the Drought ability, which means he's got the sun there, and he is going to be able to fire off some pretty massive eruptions from that Choice Specs Torkoal. Protect coming out from the Ursaluna to try to keep it safe. Amoonguss taking quite a lot of damage from that Life Orb Hatterene, and we'll see what comes out from the Torkoal here. It is going to be the eruption in the sun with the Choice Specs. Is this going to be enough to hit through the Amoonguss's water terrestrialization? It is. It is going to pick up the knockout. So that means it is now just down to Toby's 1 Ursaluna at -2 attack versus Caleb's Indeedee and Torkoal.
Yeah, so that second Trick Room, very crucial. You set Trick Room, you only got a few turns. If you get a second Trick Room and you've got the likes of Hatterene and Torkoal, that's a lot of damage and that's a lot of turns to stall out. Just not enough time to stall these turns out.
No, exactly. And I think Toby was hoping to stall those Trick Room out without it coming back up. But now that it's back, Ursaluna really doesn't have a lot to do. And there's the Expanding Force, not even needing the Torkoal, just picking up the straight knockout with that Expanding Force.
Yeah, wow, what an amazing game. I'm quite speechless. I think it looks flashy, but that turn of that skill swap, crucial. Because it's allowing the second Trick Room to set up. Because as I said earlier, the Ursaluna was the biggest threat to setting up that Trick Room without Amoonguss asleep. So once we perfectly time the turn when the Trick Room is reversed, we've got that Hatterene in play, full health against the -2.
What ended up being -2. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly right. I think skill swap from Hatterene really showing its merit. We kind of missed it when we were analyzing the teams at the start, but both times it clicked it, I think it was just, as you mentioned, crucial, right? The Magic Bounce onto the Incineroar really tipped the game in Caleb's favor. I think if the Incineroar had gone to sleep there, Caleb would have been in a very, very bad spot. That Golden Go would have been free to launch and Make It Rain into that Hatterene. Super effective hit. It would have taken out the Hatterene there. Incineroar would have taken some damage from that Make It Rain. It would now be asleep, and Caleb would be playing from the back foot, possibly, impossible to recover from. But the ability to keep the Incineroar both immune to the Spore and also to, in turn, put that Amoonguss to sleep means that Caleb was just in such a dominant position. It allowed his Incineroar to get that Flare Blitz off into the Golden Go, which wasn't able to protect itself, having protected the turn before. So just really masterful plays coming out, and I think Hatterene absolutely the MVP in that match.
Yeah, that was amazing. Skill Swap, not a move that we see too often. Of course, we see that it just switches the abilities of the user and the target. It can target opposing Pokemon, but in this case, crucial to the victory there. And I think you correctly identified that if the Incineroar fell asleep there, the Hatterene plus a sleeping Incineroar, Golden Go's in a very good position there. It's resisting every single attack that Hatterene can put out there, but it's also threatening so much damage on the Hatterene. And it's just, I don't know, he needs both of his offensive threats if he wants to win this game. So we've got the same lead as game one with the Amoonguss and the Kilowattrel versus the Incineroar and the Indeedee. So it's the exact same leads as game one. That Intimidate coming out into the Amoonguss doesn't matter, but into the Kilowattrel, triggering the competitive ability, giving it 2 stages of increased special attack.
That is unfortunate there for Caleb getting that competitive boost up. We saw how much damage the Kilowattrel was dishing out in game one. I think Toby's really considered, well, this is what worked for me in game one. I won game one. I just need to do what I did in game one. And so he's just brought exactly the same leads. He's got that +2 on the Kilowattrel, and we'll see if Caleb's able to respond to it better than he did in the first game.
Yeah, so it's very interesting because the Incineroar and the Indeedee are both threatening super effective damage on that Amoonguss. Potentially threatening, not threatening, but wanting to terrestrialize that Amoonguss. But we saw last game that once you terrestrialize the Amoonguss, you could get a Magic Bounce Spore.
Yes, exactly. And we are potentially going to see that as the Incineroar switches out into the Hatterene, replacing that, once again, Incineroar slot now has Magic Bounce in it. We are going to see the terrestrialization come out, and that is going to be into the Indeedee once again. Again, just wanting to remain immune from those spores. We saw how well that worked in game two, so we'll see if we get the same thing again. And Amoonguss going for the Protect this time rather than for the Spore. We will see if we get an Air Slash from the Kilowattrel, but it is instead going to be a Thunderbolt into the Hatterene slot, dealing quite a lot of damage there.
Yeah, an Air Slash could have been potentially quite a strong play because now super effective into that Indeedee, but it does have the special defense boost from the Psychic Seed item. So interesting to see the competitive boost versus the Psychic Seed if it would have been enough.
Yeah, exactly. A question we won't have answered in this stream, unfortunately. But once again, Caleb, very strong position, having got that Trick Room up. Toby has not yet used his terrestrialization, so could still potentially terrestrialize out of that poison type on the Amoonguss to keep it safe from those expanding forces coming out from the Hatterene, or potentially might just try to switch. Could potentially have something like the Incineroar on the back, which will be immune to that expanding force. So we'll really have to see exactly what Toby is looking to do here. He is going to switch out that Amoonguss, and instead he is going to bring in the Incineroar, as I shouted out.
Yeah, a very good defensive switch in the face of that expanding force pressure. As we've got the Intimidate coming out, it's not going to affect the damage of either of these Pokemon. As we've got the Dazzling Gleam.
Ooh, that's going to do a decent chunk of the Kilowattrel. Not quite pick out the knockout, but there is a Psychic from the Indeedee. It is just going to guarantee the knockout into that Kilowattrel, which is just going to ensure that that Kilowattrel and its +2 from its competitive stat are not going to be bothering anyone anymore.
Yeah, Toby definitely on the back foot at the start of that turn, with the Amoonguss not being able to put either Pokemon to sleep, and the Kilowattrel not very happy in the Trick Room conditions there. A bit of a sitting duck or a sitting bird.
A sitting Albatross, if you will. Exactly. But yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily the worst thing in the world for Toby. Obviously, losing the Kilowattrel is not fantastic, but it does allow him to get a free switch back into this Amoonguss, which does mean that he's going to be able to switch out that Kilowattrel, which may be a bit of a liability in those Trick Room turns, given that it doesn't really have the speed at all to compete in Trick Room.
Exactly. That Thunderbolt damage earlier on Hatterene being crucial, because with that Life Orb item, every attack comes with a cost of some amount of your health. And the Hatterene looks like after one more attack, it might be done for the game. So it has to be a very meaningful attack. And this Amoonguss and Incineroar lead, it's very, very defensive lead. It's quite good in this position, I think.
I would say so, yeah. Just as you called out, Hatterene only got one attack left in it before the recoil from the Life Orb it's holding is actually going to cause it to knock itself out. There's a Protect coming out from the Amoonguss, really wanting to stay safe from those expanding forces. Hatterene, however, opting once again for the Dazzling Gleam. That is going to go into the Protect on the Amoonguss and is going to go into the Incineroar, dealing not maybe as much damage as he would have liked. There is the Life Orb recoil causing the Hatterene to faint.
Yeah, so that is Hatterene's last attack of the game. It would have definitely liked to contribute a little bit more damage to this game, but it does potentially provide a good switch in to whatever is in the back. As we've got the Flare Blitz coming out into the now Grass-type Indeedee, enough for the knockout.
That is going to pick up the knockout. As we saw in Game 2 with the Intimidate from Caleb's Incineroar, he was able to prevent Toby's Incineroar from getting the knockout with the Flare Blitz into that Terra Grass Indeedee. Unfortunately, in this game, there has been no such Intimidate, which means that Caleb Indeedee was just unfortunately taken out by that Flare Blitz. There was nothing he could do there.
Yeah, exactly. So now Caleb, final two Pokemon, both fire types, the Incineroar and the Torkoal. The Torkoal with this Choice Specs item, whatever move it locks into this turn with no ability to switch out, will be the move that it has to click for the rest of the game. So a pretty important decision here from Caleb. I could imagine Eruption seems pretty good, but once the Trick Room reverses or some damage is taken, less desirable, I'd say.
Yeah, exactly. So that Eruption almost definitely going to be the play here with that massive base power on it while that Torkoal is on full health. As you called out, if that Torkoal does start to take damage, those Eruptions are going to be hitting for less and less and less. But I think what Caleb's really going to be hoping for here is that he's just able to kind of start smashing through and, you know, dealing enough damage with those Eruptions so that he's actually not taking that much damage in return.
Yeah, that's right. With those Trick Room turns expiring, the momentum shifts into Toby's favor. With that damage coming out from Caleb, favor. We've got the Terrestrialization coming out here into the Amoonguss, not wanting to take those Eruptions super effectively.
No, I think that's the obvious choice there really from Toby, is you can't just leave your Amoonguss there in front of those Eruptions and just let it get taken out with that super effective hit. So we are going to see a Heat Wave from Torkoal rather than go for that Eruption, which we anticipated. Possibly trying, as you shouted out, you know, he's going to be locked into one move for the rest of the game. Heat Wave a little bit more reliable than those Eruptions if he does start to take damage. There's going to be the Spore into the Incineroar, which means unfortunately Incineroar's not going to be able to move this turn and potentially future turns to come.
Yeah, Incineroar definitely missing that magic bounce that it had in Game 2 here. Incineroar falling asleep and the Torkoal clicking Heat Wave for the rest of this game. A wise choice because, as you said, if it takes some damage, Heat Wave is rather than clicking over Eruption. As the Ursaluna comes in here, threatening a good amount of damage, but that Flame Orb has not activated yet. But the ground typing very, very desirable into both of these fire types.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I mean, you've definitely got to be concerned about that Ursaluna. However, I think Toby is, you know, trying to be a bit more conservative here, trying to stall it out until the Trick Room is over so that Ursaluna can start moving first. Heat Wave into that Ursaluna, into the Protect slot, into the Amoonguss. Again, not really doing a whole heap. That Water Terrestrialization doing a lot for the Amoonguss. Spore coming out once again from the Amoonguss. It is going to put the Torkoal to sleep, putting both Pokemon on Caleb's side of the field to sleep. And we'll see if Incineroar wakes up. It does wake up, gets that one turn sleep. There's the knockoff into the Amoonguss. Not quite enough to pick up the knockout there, unfortunately.
Yeah, a relatively safe play because we know with that choice specs, the Torkoal can only go for those Heat Waves. So that water typing on the Amoonguss, very, very beneficial here. And you've got a Spore into the Torkoal. Torkoal can't do anything to prevent that. But that fast wake up from Incineroar.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Breach Powder from the Amoonguss, keeping that Ursaluna safe from any powerful Flare Blitzes or knockoffs coming out from the Incineroar. There's the Headlong Rush, one hit knockout on that Torkoal, as you could expect. Such powerful ground type move from that Ursaluna into the fire type is always going to pick up that knockout there. And then we'll see Incineroar going for the Flare Blitz, which has been redirected into the Amoonguss. It is going to pick up that knockout. However, as we just saw, Incineroar is actually moving after that Ursaluna, clearly trained very slowly to be used more in that Trick Room, which means Incineroar in this turn is going to be moving after the Ursaluna. We'll see if Ursaluna is able to pick up that one-hit knockout with that Headlong Rush once again.
Yeah, of course, on Toby's side, we do see Porygon 2 on the team sheet, so there is some level of Trick Room here. And the Headlong Rush coming out into that Incineroar, enough for the knockout, and that's going to be...
That's going to take a Game 3, which means Toby is going to be confirmed for that asymmetric top cut. That is going to take him to his 8th win with 8 wins and 1 loss, which means that he is now guaranteed to be included in that asymmetric top cut.
No, I believe with Toby winning that one, I believe that was the down pair. So Toby actually has...
Oh, was he up paired there?
Yes. So,
okay. My apologies.
If Caleb were to win there, he would have locked his spot into the elimination bracket, but Toby Of course, sometimes there's an odd number of players with a certain amount of match wins, so one of them has to play either somebody with more or less match wins. And Toby now still kicking in this tournament with 2 losses already taken, and one more round. If he's able to win that round, he will reserve his spot into the top cut bracket.
Yeah, exactly. So that actually puts us with both players there on the same record. So they each need to win their next game in order to advance. So, they'll both be stressing out a bit. However, I think Toby might be feeling potentially a bit more confident than Caleb. Obviously, Toby coming off a win and Caleb coming off a loss there.
Yeah, that was quite an amazing game, I'd have to say. I really did enjoy that game too. It shows, like, I've played against so many players who play hard Trick Room, but they always show me something new. I see skill swap sometimes. Usually they do it to reset the Sun against maybe a Pelipper, reset the Psychic Terrain against a Rillaboom, and then once you've reset it, you can Expanding Force again. That's quite a good interaction. But in this case, calling out the Spore and saying, no, send it back. I don't want it.
Yeah, look, that was fantastic to see. I will actually call out, because you did actually mention resetting the Sun. Something that was very interesting I actually noticed in that game too. I don't know if you picked up on it. The Hatterene was actually moving before the Torkoal in that Trick Room. That's not common. Torkoal has that lower base speed. Usually in Trick Room, Torkoals will be trained to be as slow as possible, so that under that Trick Room, they're moving as fast as possible. But in that case, the Hatterene was actually moving first. That actually means that Caleb has trained his Hatterene and his Torkoal. Torkoal's just got a little bit of speed, and that means in any situation where, like you said, if a Pelipper comes in, something tries to use a Prankster Rain Dance like a Macro, and Rain is on the field, Hatterene uses that skill swap onto the Torkoal first, swaps the Drought onto itself, the Drought ability activates, Sun goes up, and then Torkoal swings with its Eruption or its Heat Wave or its Weather Ball. So the training so that the Hatterene is going first under Trick Room, maybe not always optimal for what that Torkoal would be wanting to do, because that means that Torkoal is actually likely to be faster than something like, or slower rather, in a Trick Room than something like an Amoonguss, make it susceptible to spores. But it does allow for those tricky plays with the skill swap and the Drought to allow the Sunny Day to proc before the Torkoal moves in that turn.
Yeah, that's an excellent observation that you've made there. I do know that those 3 Pokemon that we've mentioned, Amoonguss, Hatterene, Torkoal, they're very, very slow in Trick Room. They're very desirable options for the hard Trick Room players. And I do believe there is a little bit of room, because you said with the training, to allow the Torkoal to be faster. Moving second in Trick Room, you said?
Moving second
faster,
in Trick Room,
slower,
yes.
It's a little bit confusing. But to have that Torkoal moving second in Trick Room, but still moving before opposing Amoonguss, because that is one of the major reasons why Torkoal is so strong. It's threatening the Amoonguss. It doesn't need a Spore immunity when it's got Eruption.
Exactly. The best immunity to Spore is the Amoonguss being taken out and not being able to Spore.
Yeah, exactly. But as I say that, you don't need a Spore immunity when you've got Eruption. The Amoonguss does have access to Terra Water, so it's not a foolproof, bulletproof strategy. But
no, exactly. And I think the terrestrialization on that Amoonguss, Toby holding it for that game until he really needed it, that's really what allowed him to win that game. I think if Toby's Amoonguss wasn't able to terrestrialize into the water type there, that Torkoal with its Eruption, even probably the Heat Wave, would have knocked out the Amoonguss with that super effective hit in the Sun with those choice specs, and they would have left just the Ursaluna in front of the Torkoal and the Incineroar to try to take out both of them. Obviously not impossible. It's got access to that Earthquake, hitting both of them for super effective, but it would have been a tougher spot for sure.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very interesting back and forth, I'd say, because we saw in Game 2 the terrestrialization from Amoonguss maybe cost the game. So you want to terrestrialize the Amoonguss in front of the Eruption, but if you do that, you're susceptible to the magic bounces. So it's a little bit, so there is a very big drawback to it, but I feel like you do need it in the matchup, because also Incineroar is threatening the Amoonguss with Flare-Blitz.
Well, I actually think we saw that in turn 1 of that game, is that the Amoonguss on Toby's side actually went for the Protect. In Game 1, I believe it was the terrestrialization right off the bat on the Amoonguss, or at least we saw something similar in Game 2, in front of that Incineroar. Because obviously the Incineroar could go for that Flare Blitz and take out the Amoonguss then and there. And Toby's answer to that obviously could be terrestrialize into the water type and keep yourself safe from the Flare Blitz and start firing off those spores. But I think Toby actually wised up in that Game 3, went for the Protect instead to keep it safe. Because if he did terrestrialize into that water type in front of the Incineroar and the Incineroar instead switched out into the Hatterene, once again, you're going to be dealing with that magic bounce. Once Amoonguss terrestrializes into that water type, doesn't have its grass typing anymore, which means it's not immune to its own spore. That magic bounce sending the spore back, going to put itself to sleep, as we saw happen exactly in Game 2.
Yeah, exactly. I do think that pressure being put on the Amoonguss there was 2 defensive plays, but he was very, very smart in identifying that the terrestrialization as a defensive play opens you up to what happened in game 2. I mean, a lot of things happened in game 2, a lot of abilities being thrown around, but the magic bounce, you can't really afford to have your slowest Pokemon, maybe your most important piece in the Trick Room matchup, fall asleep, so all the turns of Trick Room are ticking and you're not able to do anything in them.
Yeah, no, exactly right. But I think Toby really just kind of exemplified exactly what you want to do against one of these hard Trick Room options. If you are in a position where you're playing against a offensive Trick Room player, they've set their Trick Room up, they're looking to smash through you with their with their Hatterene and with their Torkoal, and potentially even with that very offensively trained Incineroar. You really just need to maneuver, terrestrialize, protect. Just get yourself out of that Trick Room so that you can be in a position where you've got the initiative and you can start swinging instead.
Yeah, another play that I do want to call out was that close combat, if you remember, to the Incineroar switching in. Because when you play hard Trick Room, you've only got a limited amount of turns where the momentum's in your favor. So it kind of puts a lot of pressure on you to get the plays right. Because if the opponent makes a defensive play and there isn't that much ground made from either side, that's a turn of Trick Room on. So you really need to understand what your opponent's expecting you to do, how your opponent's going to respond, and then do you want to call out their response and make an aggressive play like a close combat, and then the Incineroar comes in.
Exactly. And we saw that all 3 games, sometimes those reads kept being made. Sometimes they worked, sometimes they didn't. I think the switch in, the Incineroar coming in, the close combat into that slot, definitely an example of read that was made well. You're absolutely right. These hard Trick Room teams, they're all about making the correct reads, the correct plays, trying to anticipate what your opponent is going to do. Even in that very first turn, when you're trying to set up that Trick Room, you'll be with the Indeedee. Toby's really having to figure out what's going to go on there, because it could launch a Spore into the Indeedee slot to prevent that Trick Room from getting up. But if the Indeedee terrestrializes into the Grass type, then that could potentially be an issue. But potentially you could make that read, Air Slash into the Indeedee slot, in which case potentially with that +2 that you've got from the competitive boost, you might actually be able to pick up a knockout onto that Indeedee. Obviously, it's very tricky to knock out Indeedee with special type moves, given the defense boost it got or special defense boost it got from its Psychic Seed. But these are the kind of things that you need to be thinking about when you're playing one of these Trick Room teams and playing against one of these Trick Room teams.
Yeah, but one interesting thing about that call out, if you choose to Air Slash the Indeedee, is if you get it wrong, 30% of the time you get the flinch anyway.
That's very true.
It does cover for if you get the call wrong. But one thing that we didn't get to see, and always excites me about these teams, is the Lilligant with the Torkoal.
Lilligant and Torkoal,
yes. We didn't get to see it, did we?
I mean, the team is named Lillicol. The idea is that Lilligant Torkoal. You're right. I am a little bit disappointed that we didn't get to see it. We may still get to see it in future rounds if Caleb ends up on stream. For those who aren't familiar with how it works, as I called out at the start, Lilligant, with that chlorophyll boost from its ability, doubles its speed. It's already quite fast. Usually they use the Hisuian variant of Lilligant, which has, I believe, 105 base speed, which is very fast. And then when you double that, it's moving before most things on the field, even if the opponent is able to get up something like a Tailwind. Lilligant is then free to get off potentially a Sleep Powder, much like the Amoonguss, just putting the opponents to sleep. It can fire off some decent damage with close combat. It's got Solar Blade, which is a very powerful grass-type move in the sun. But also something very interesting that these Lilligant Torkoal teams like to do. Lilligant gets access to the move After You. After You, it means that when the Pokemon using After You moves, it selects another Pokemon on the field, and that Pokemon moves immediately. So even when that Trick Room isn't up, and Torkoal would typically be the last thing on the field to be moving, if Lilligant is the first thing on the field moving, clicks the move After You into the Torkoal moves immediately, suddenly going very, very fast, and it's able to fire off those Terrafire, Choice Specs, Sun-boosted Eruptions. And some teams, if you don't have an answer for that, that's just game over right there. 2 turns later, you've just been taken out by those Eruptions, and there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, exactly. I think this wasn't the matchup for it. Obviously, it didn't bring it. But one of the major reasons, I think, that Kilowattra with the Focus Sash, it doesn't matter if you've got Terrafire, Choice Specs, in the Sun, Eruption. If you've got a Focus Sash, you can hang on through that damage. So the Torkoal, very interesting Pokemon, capable of outputting a lot of damage on both ends of the speed spectrum.
Yes.
When you've got the Trick Room set up, perfectly set up, but you could just skip the setup. You could skip the Follow Me Trick Room, the Trick Room and all of that, trying to get the Torkoal in. Why not just go after your Eruption? I know some matchups, it's just really good. Some opponents might not have it. But in this metagame with the Sun, you can't always reliably keep the Sun up, because we've seen Tyrannitars before. There's a lot of Rain teams, because we know that the Rain pieces are quite strong. We've even seen a lot of Ninetales, because Ninetales is quite good with this Blizzard and all of that, quite fast. So it's a very interesting bring, but in some matchups, sometimes it's just you lead Lilligant Torkoal, and
Yep.
the opponent, it's up to them to figure out how to respond because, hey, I'm putting a lot of offense on the board. What can you do?
Yeah,
Stop it.
exactly. Sometimes you've got to make them have the answers.
Exactly, yes.
Well, I think that wraps us up for round one. We'll go to a quick break and we will be back very soon with plenty more coverage of Phase 2, Brisbane 2026.
Hello, everyone, and we are back with more action from Brisbane here this weekend during Phase 2 of the tournament. I am Paul Amity. I'm here with Jack Buckley. We are getting our competitors set up and ready. Our trainers, they're getting down, they're getting ready. We're going to go through just some quick details beforehand. We're going to quickly start by going through and have a quick rundown of all of the 31 players that are playing in this Phase 2. Jack, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, we've had some absolutely spectacular competitors, not just what we showcased on stream, but some absolutely terrific matches that have happened off screen. We do have some players that are confirmed for our asymmetrical top cut. So we had Joji, who we featured on stream yesterday, currently 9-0, guaranteed in that top cut. But we also have Nicholas Khan and Kaito Ari.
Yeah, both of those two players are sitting at 8-1. So regardless of their result this round, they have punched their ticket into that asymmetrical top cut. Everyone else, it will be at that 7-2. Or unfortunately for some others who were not as successful in that last round, they are sitting at that 6-3, not able to clinch it, but they can still run after some of those championship points.
Yeah, absolutely. Those championship points, absolutely crucial for qualifying for Worlds, and also players placing high enough in the championship point rankings are able to secure themselves travel awards for different events, such as our international championships that Pokemon runs.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's going to be a lot of those. And we're going to be getting into it. Here is the championship points payout as well. So for our winner, they're going to be taking home 350 championship points. Not only that, that first place is a guaranteed invite to the World Championships for the 2026.
Yeah, exactly. They're no longer worried about, can I secure the amount of championship points that I need in order to meet the qualification threshold? But instead they become, how well does this put me into one of these extra rewards that they can potentially win? Fantastic for them. Runner-up ends up with 325 championship points. Not a bad payout for that.
Yeah, absolutely not a bad payout at all. You'd be happy to take that home. A difference of only 25 championship points sometimes can be the make or break, but with a payout that large, with the amount of regional level events our players are going to be exposed to, you definitely are not going to be upset taking that home. And with the asymmetrical top cut that we do have, and we have 31 of the players playing here in Phase 2, all of them are going to be taking home 160 championship points. So nothing to scoff at there for those players.
Yeah, exactly. The any poor feelings that they might have as to not performing in the previous round, it's majorly offset by that kind of payout that they get for the championship points. So while maybe I didn't go the entire distance, we've done really well, and we're able to continue this on for the rest of the season.
Yeah, so it'll be good there. I do believe we might have our players getting in slowly now. So we're going to have a quick look at their teams. I do believe we have Chai Lun Yang going up against Lewis Tan.
Yeah, exactly. These players are looking very interesting. I especially like the look of Che Lun Yang's team. It's got the Charizard, an absolute fan favorite of the Pokemon series, myself included.
And from Lewis's side, we do have a Pokemon that we are first time streaming this weekend. We do have the Sinistcha. Sinistcha providing the useful ability in Hospitality, allowing it to, every time it comes in, give a little bit of HP back to its partner. So that can be handy for something like that Ursaluna that's constantly taking that burn damage from its Flame Orb, or even something from the Archaludon that is also there. Just one of those big, bulky defensive Pokemon that can also set up. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get going, and it can be damaged over time. With that Hospitality, just able to keep it a little bit healthier.
Exactly, and it also means that Basculegion is a lot more comfortable clicking those wave crashes. Those wave crashes, of course, very, very powerful move. Comes at the cost of a bit of recoil to Basculegion whenever it wants to click it.
Yeah, so that'd be It'd be good, interesting. A different take on Rain here from Lewis, different from what we saw from Kieran round one during phase one of the regional championship that we've had here in Brisbane. And going over the other team as well by Chayun, we have what a lot of people have referred to as the Marco Sun teams. So during the first wave that we had of the Regulation H format, this 6 has been basically pioneered and sculpted by Marco, with that choice specs Charizard just dealing out those really big damage under the sun weather condition with the Torkoal. So it's going to be a clash of sun versus rain.
Yeah, exactly. This is weather war, as we tend to know it as. The sun and rain, they need to play their pieces so carefully. Pelipper does have quite the advantage, though. It has access to U-turn, where it's able to not just switch out at the beginning of the turn, but also, maybe eat a hit, U-turn out, and be able to send something in and be able to switch in the very next turn.
Yeah, so it does look like that we were looking to go into a game on that, but there has been a connection error. So we're going to be just filling out a little bit more details on what these are. So it's good to see that our players are on the floor, looking ready to go. It's just going to be a quick another couple of minutes. We're going to go over, as you mentioned, the U-turn is an option for Pelipper to have for it to pivot in and out when necessary. Torkoals have been adapting using the eject pack and overheat, meaning it can fire off an overheat and look to get itself out of the action to look at resetting its weather condition. And it's looking like something like that into the face of rain can be quite relevant, especially for weakening those water-type moves, putting the Electro Shot onto that 2-turn timer instead of that immediate hit in the rain, alongside giving the big power to Charizard with its solar power ability, boosting that special attack and those big fire moves.
Yeah, and also adding to Weather Ball.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so Weather Ball can be used in the sun just for a big single target fire type move. But on the off chance if it comes in on the rain, there is an Incineroar on Lewis's side as well. It can hit by a rain boosted Weather Ball, potentially looking to do big damage on that end to that one as well. So it's just kind of something that both players can look at taking into account, potentially to abuse. Also looking to potentially hit the Ursaluna for some super effective damage in the rain. Kind of looking to potentially make the best of a worst case scenario.
Yeah, and there's also Pelipper might want to terrestrialize into a ghost type in order to avoid any fake outs coming from Incineroar. That might be a great defensive play, but as we've seen in previous rounds, the defensive terror plays also opens you up to something completely different. So whilst Pelipper might be able to eat the Weather Ball in the rain, once it has that ghost type, it is no longer a not very effective hit. It becomes a neutrally effective hit. That doubles the power that is going to be hit with by that Weather Ball from Charizard. So there is a lot of game planning that needs to go on with not just what Pokemon that you're bringing or what moves that you're clicking, but when and which terrestrializations you're wanting to be clicking at this point.
Yeah, terrestrialization being a very, very big key component in a lot of the games that we've showcased today, and it could very well be the case here as well, with the Ghost on the Pelipper being able to preserve a Focus Sash in the eyes of Incineroar with that Fake Out, a move that Incineroar does like to come in and click, getting not only that Fake Out off on a fairly regular basis in the game, but also providing that Intimidate support. As we've seen throughout the day, the Intimidate support that we have seen over the regional weekend has done quite a lot of work, just allowing one-hit knockouts to not become not one-hit knockouts. It's allowing teammates to hang in there, being able to get off an extra attack. Those extra attacks are always just very key to helping our traders win our games.
Yeah, exactly. And looking at the other side, I've noticed Pokemon that we kind of just take for granted as being a really good Pokemon, but people that might not be as clued into VGC, that Jumpluff down there. Jumpluff is such a fantastic support Pokemon in the sun. It has access to Tailwind, Sleep Powder, and Rage Powder for redirection.
Yeah, very, very strong support Pokemon that some teams have been adapting with. It's also got that manual weather in sunny days. So even if the rain is up, if Jumpluff is the fastest Pokemon on the field, if it's staring down like the Incineroar or like the Archaludon alongside that Pelipper, it can reset the weather on a whim, which is quite excellent support in the face of like a Charizard. Or even like an Incineroar throwing out the sun-boosted Flare Blitz. It's never going to say no to that.
Yeah, exactly it. So it seems like that we are getting underway now. Just waiting for our players to be choosing their Pokemon.
Yeah, getting into it now. It's absolutely big game for these two. This is the make or break of their tournament here in Brisbane this weekend. Both players, we do like to remind you, are both at the 7-2 record to move on to the asymmetrical top cut. They're looking to get 8-2, so it's going to be a lot of big plays. There's going to be quite a lot of nerves going in between these two as well, especially being showcased on stream. Something fairly new to us, probably fairly new to a lot of them as well. So nerves have got to be high. So they're going to be looking to get themselves locked in and hopefully looking to show us what these two can do, showing us why they're here, showing us why they deserve to be in that top cut.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself. Tensions are absolutely high. We've been in situations like this before. I can only imagine how these players are feeling.
Absolutely. So we're going to circle back around because there is the new Pokemon here that we're showcasing in this set. We have the Sinistcha here. We did mention briefly about the Hospitality. It's also got another move that isn't too common, but maybe we'll see that coming into it because it has been led, and we do see the Sinistcha and the Basculegion led from Lewis's side. And from Chaeyoung's side, we've got the Jumpluff, and I do believe it was the Porygon 2.
It is the Porygon 2. So, very interesting lead for Chaeyoung's side. He's led 2 support Pokemon. So Jumpluff is normally, you'd see it going for Tailwind here, but you'd also normally see Porygon 2 going for Trick Room here. So really leaving his options open here.
Yeah, there could be a possibility for the Jumpluff 2. You did mention earlier there is that Rage Powder option allowing it to potentially protect the Porygon 2 to allow it to get a safer Trick Room. But we've seen the Pelipper switch in and the Water Terrestrialization come out very early from Lewis. So looking at getting off some big damage with that Choice Banded, Wave, Crash, boosted by the Rain, boosted by the Terrestrialization. And that is a big one-hit knockout. Even though it is a resisted hit. Absolutely.
Taking out that Jumpluff in one single hit. Jumpluff going back to its trainer. Porygon 2 firing off that Ice Beam into that Sinistcha, which became that Pelipper in that switch. Wanting to get off some really, really big hits here. That did a lot to that Pelipper. I just want to point that out.
Yes, that was a very, very big chunk of damage there. Another one of those can look like it can take the Pelipper off the field for the remainder of the game. We do have Torkoal in here now, so Sun is up, so there's going to be no more big rain-boosted wave crashes, but it's still backed by a Choice Band, it's still backed by the Water Terrestrialization. And Basculegion is no slouch for dealing damage, so it could still look to do a quite big amount of damage here to that Torkoal.
Yeah, exactly. Even though the disadvantageous weather going from rain to sun cuts that damage by 4 times, that's still a huge hit, like a quarter of a huge number. It's still a pretty big number.
Oh, here we go. Okay, so the Incineroar has come in here now. Now, we did mention earlier that the Overheat can activate the Eject Pact. Intimidate also activates it because it is a stat drop on the Torkoal. So it's going to force out the Pokemon that is in the back there. And by the looks of things, it's coming out. It's going to be that Ursaluna. So if there is a banded Wave Crash coming into that Torkoal, it's going to now be thrown straight into that Ursaluna. And that is exactly what happened to that.
Another one-hit knockout.
That is a one-hit knockout. That is in the sun. That is not rain boosted. We don't need any of that. That is... What a play from Lewis there.
Basculegion on its last legs, despite never getting hit once.
There we are. And with that done, the Torkoal is forced back in now. There is no way for Chaeyoung to switch out now. So once Pelipper comes back in, it's going to be rain for the next 5 turns as soon as it looks to come in. In the meantime, we do have that Sun up. Porygon 2 has set up that Trick Room. So both of these two do have quite the mountain to climb into what has been revealed already with the Pelipper and the lead Sinistcha as well. Sinistcha being able to heal its partners back up 25% with that Hospitality ability. And just like that, game 1's done.
Wow. What an absolutely explosive game 1 from Lewis there.
Yeah, Lewis just lined it up and just went, you know what? We're just going to go right on the aggressive game 1. Backing himself very confidently, looking into those plays. And what an absolute wonderful showcase that we got from Lewis at 6.
Yeah, Lewis only clicked 2 moves. He swapped, Wave Crash, swapped again, Wave Crash, done. That was the game.
That is going to be one of those things that we do see as The Young's team, the very popularized Marco Sun, definitely a team that a lot of our trainers may have had on the mind in terms of preparation for this regional. With Lewis showing as strong as that game plan was in that game one, maybe that might have been on his mind going into this tournament. And by the looks of things, it has paid off well, at least in the game one. We still have a game two, potentially a game three, depending on how it's played. So I'm excited to see how it goes down. Are we going to see something explosive again? Are we going to be something a little that gets the Torkoal and that Trick Room mode into a little bit more of a favorable spot? Do we see the Charizard?
I'm very hoping that we do see the Charizard. Yeah, from Charizard's end, you saw that he led the Jumpluff and the Porygon too. Two support Pokemon, leaves a lot of options available. But when you're that susceptible to Choice Band, Rain Boosted, Terrestrialized Water Wave Crashes, it's not exactly the terrific position to be in at that point.
Yeah, you don't want to be in that position at all. I wouldn't have even been surprised if that even was going to go in and knock out that Porygon too. All of those, even though it's just like, yeah, it's rain, yeah, it's terrestrialization, yeah, it's choice band, those all add up. Wave Crash is a very strong move just on its own. Backing up by the Basculegion, backing up by all of that, it just does some incredible damage. But we're in here in the game two. Same leads here
Exact
from
same
both.
leads. Very interesting. This might be leaning towards an immediate Trick Room. Whilst game one, Charlin went straight for the Ice Beam into that Sinister slot, maybe he thought maybe that was not the correct play. Maybe we just need to immediately slow things down. We want to get the weather advantage. We want the speed advantage. We just want to go in. We don't mind if Jumpluff goes down here to the Wave Crash. We know it's going to happen. But if that means that we have a healthy Porygon 2, a healthy Torkoal, and the weather advantage, this must be what we need to do. Or, of course, I could be completely incorrect.
So we're going to see an adjustment there. So this one is coming out here. It is the Pelipper coming in, setting up that rain. But due to the Porygon 2 being slower than the Sinister, it does get the slower switch out going into there. Jumpluff getting that speed advantage thanks to the Chlorophyll. Putting the Basculegion to sleep, the big threat that is the Basculegion as we saw in that game one. That one going to sleep there. Getting some momentum up there for Chaoyung that wasn't really there in that game one, so it's good to see that there's going to be a turnaround there. There's a good adjustment there, at least in that turn one.
Yeah, an immense amount of momentum going in Chandler's favor. Especially risky amount of momentum to be picking up there, because Sleep Powder, not a very accurate move. A very scary move that you're finding yourself in a position that, oh, I need to click this right now.
Yeah, so it can be one of those moves that can look to sometimes end up most of the time being okay, but sometimes when you do miss that, it can end up being quite disadvantageous. We are going to see some switching out here. We're going to see the Jumpluff switch out here, and it looks like that one is going straight back into that Porygon 2. Potentially looking at getting, the special attack download boost due to that Pelipper's lowered special defense in comparison to its defense. Just those combined totals being added up and then split, giving Porygon 2 a little bit more of that oomph. We do see the Pelipper switch out as well into that Sinister there. We are going to see the Overheat come in, deal quite a large amount of damage. We do see that special attack drop, but this time with the intended purpose of that eject pack now after getting off that big hit. Torkoal's in the back now, so it's got the opportunity to come in and reset Sun at a latent point in time. We're going to see if it wants to be the Jumpluff that comes back into this position, or do we have the unrevealed fourth that comes into Torkoal's spot?
And we're going to find the answer to that question right now. It is that Jumpluff coming in once again, probably wanting to respond to a potential switch in from the Pelipper here. Porygon 2 is looking a lot nicer with that special attack boost that it has going on with that ice beams that it can be firing off. We already saw that it does a lot of damage to the Pelipper on the switch in. So it might not be advantageous for Lewis to want to be switching it in just willy-nilly at the moment.
Yeah, that ice beam in that game one as well. That was also from the attack boost. That is what the downloader got. So now it's going to have even more drive behind it if that is going to be the course of action here from Chaoyung. Lewis, on the other hand, Lewis has a little bit to think about now because the Basculegion has had 2 turns where it has been asleep and been unable to move. So it could be on the wake up soon. A Sleep Powder was thrown out looking to potentially catch that Pelipper on switch in. Unfortunately, the Sinister did manage to stay in. Good play from Lewis's end. Bit unfortunate there for the Basculegion. feeling still a bit tired after, but some potential day one shenanigans. It's still looking to sleep there. And the Porygon's gone and set up that Trick Room now.
Yeah, the Machagacha coming out from the Sinister as well. Not getting that coveted burn that I believe that he was going for. But no Focus Sash to be breaking. I was going to comment on that there isn't a Focus Sash on the... Jumpluff would have loved to have had a Focus Sash that game one, but unfortunately...
The Jumpluff instead is rocking the Covert Cloak, which is potentially why it might have been able to dodge a burn in its state. We're going to see the boosted Ice Beam here come out. The Sinister has been able to take that. It'll heal a little bit back with that Citrus Berry. So it'll heal back a little bit more if it does end up going for that Machagacha again as well. It is one of the slower Pokemon that is on the field right now. Jumpluff with the sun up being the fastest thing on the field there. So you're going to get a little bit of recovery there. I'm not too sure if we do see a burn on specifically the Porygon 2. Every little bit of chip helps on something as bulky as a Porygon 2, generally holding that Eviolite item. The Basculegion does wake up here, and it is going for the flip turn, so it's going to do a little bit of damage, and it's also going to get itself out of there, looking to send in something from the back line there. Depending, do we see the Pelipper come in to reset the weather, or do we do see the Incineroar that is coming in? The fourth unrevealed Pokemon there from Lewis is now on display, dropping the attack for both of the Jumpluff and the Porygon. And the Sunny Day coming out, looking to expect potentially a Pelipper switch in there. Lewis looking at that, respecting that, not bringing it in just yet.
Yeah, very, very smart play going for the Sunny Day there, trying to keep up that Trick Room advantage that Chylun has, whilst not wanting to give up any weather advantage that he's also being able to maintain.
Yeah, if that call was correct, it would have been another 5 turns of sun because Rain would have gone and had a complete sun reset. But at the moment, it isn't looking like that. Big decisions to be made here from both of these trainers. For Lewis, it'll be his way straight into there. We are seeing a Jumpluff switch out of there for the time being, looking to potentially get one of those more offensive threats in there now. As we do see the Torkoal come in, we might potentially look at seeing a Snarl coming out here from the Incineroar.
Very, very good Snarl coming out from Lewis there. That Snarl is absolutely crucial, not only dropping the Torkoal special attack, but also by lowering its health, it weakens that eruption.
Oh, I do see a
critical hit.
There. It did have the download boost from the first one, dealing that damage, putting in Citrus Berry range. Unsure if that one, it might have been close depending on a knockout or not, but a critical hit will guarantee that.
Absolutely clinches it. So.
Yeah, that's Sinister gone down for the count there. So there's going to be no more Hospitality coming back in, and there's going to be nothing else there in that regard. We do see the Basculegion coming now. There's still going to be some turns of Trick Room left. The Jumpluff is not on the field, and the Torkoal is currently active, so there could be a potential to see a Pelipper come in here to reset the rain. We do. Lewis does need to take into account that Torkoal can fire off at some big moves in the sun. If there's not a direct switch, there could be a potential for a parting shot that comes out from the Incineroar to keep lowering those offenses. But we do see a Torkoal switch out here.
Yeah, we do. We see Torkoal swapping back out into Jumpluff. Jumpluff hanging out in the Trick Room, not normally its domain. We see a massive knockoff coming from that Incineroar into the Porygon 2, not only dealing some pretty sizable damage, but also removing that Eviolite, which dramatically decreases Porygon 2's staying power here.
There we go. And just from that, you can see that flip turn there. That flip turn there dealing quite a big chunk of damage there with that Eviolite knocked off there. Pivoting back into Pelipper now, the last active Pokemon that is in the back for Lewis here. And we are going to see the rain back here now as well. So we do see there's going to be one more turn of that Trick Room there that has been showcased there. So we're going to see what is the best course of action for Chayun to be able to make best use of that with the Jumpluff and the Porygon 2. But at the moment, it looks like from what we've been seeing, the Incineroar is currently the slowest Pokemon on the field at the moment. So there may be a possibility that the Incineroar it could fire off another Snarl, making that Porygon 2 even weaker, getting a little bit of damage on the Jumpluff. Won't be able to drop the special attack due to the Covert Cloak, but nonetheless, the Jumpluff doesn't have any damaging moves to fire off in this position. But we do see the Porygon 2 switch out.
Seen the Porygon 2 switch out, which is such an interesting play that we've seen there. The Porygon 2 at risk of a knockout, bringing in the most threatening Pokemon that Chylun has of that Torkoal. A very, very risky play, but something that he has to do in order to be able to keep that momentum. Because as you said, Trick Room is about to go down. The weather advantage is about to be entirely in Lewis's favor.
We do see the Terrestrialization come out here from the Jumpluff, turning into the Terrestrialized water type there. and that does take less damage from the Hurricane.
Hurricane in the sun, 50% accuracy.
Pelipper's locked in and has picked up the knockout on the jump loft, so the Terrestrialize does cover for the Weather Ball alongside the Hurricane, not being super effective into the grass, but the double in with the knockoff into the hit Hurricane in the sun. That is enough to take out that jump loft. So Torkoal is in and Trick Room is down. We're going to see there is still an unrevealed fourth alongside the Porygon.
There is that Ursaluna that we saw not be able to make great use of its time on the field, taking a wave crash in that game one. But right now, Ursaluna is actually looking pretty okay. While Pelipper does have the type advantage against it, that Weather Ball isn't going to be doing as much as it would in the rain.
Yeah, absolutely not. We are going to have a look. The Ursaluna does have the option to look at playing its safest turn, just going for that Protect, just to guarantee itself getting that Flame Orb, preventing a knockoff potentially from the Incineroar as well. If the Incineroar knocks off that Flame Orb, that's a lot of damage output that does get decreased from the Ursaluna. We can also have a look at seeing some of the options that Torkoal does have. The Torkoal does have the option to potentially fire off an Eruption as well, because it's still fairly healthy, so it's still going to do quite a fair bit of damage. We do see the switch in from the Pelipper into the Basculegion. We are going to see the Torkoal switch out here as well. The Torkoal switch out here is going to be going straight into the jump loft. The jump
Porygon went down. The Porygon 2. The very, very weakened Porygon 2 without any Violite. So it seems that Chylon has weighed up his options there and has thought, this is a piece that I don't need anymore. Porygon 2 has served its purpose. I'm not going to be able to get Trick Room up. I want to be able to just preserve that health on the Torkoal and be able to put Porygon 2 out there. It can eat the hit, go back to the trainer, and then we get a free switch into the Torkoal.
As we see, the Headlong Rush as well, even without that Guts boost, it is enough to knock out the Incineroar, as there was no Intimidate on the Ursaluna there. So now it's down to just the Basculegion and the Pelipper going up against the Ursaluna and the Porygon 2. But also with that switch out for the Porygon 2, Torkoal is in the back. So if Chylon wants to look at having that one switch in there for either the Ursaluna or the Porygon 2, it is able to get that Sun back up. And that is indeed what happens. It might be a possibility that even without Violite, we will be able to take, Porygon might be able to potentially look at taking a double in, maybe dodge one of those Hurricanes to have a look at potentially getting that Trick Room up again. We are seeing the Terrestrialization coming from Lewis's end. It is that offensive Terrestrialization into that Basculegion, potentially look at trying to rip through some big moves. Even while the sun is up, we saw it in game one, we may see it again here in this game too.
Yeah, but we're seeing the Weather Ball come out from the Pelipper here, and that is enough to clinch the knockout onto the Porygon 2. So unfortunately, we're not going to be seeing any more Trick Room coming from Chylon here.
Yeah, we're going to be seeing a big Wave Crash coming in here as well. We've seen it one-shot, super effective on the Ursaluna, and
does the same to Torkoal, despite its enormous defense stat, despite the reduction in damage from the sun there, it is still more than enough to clinch that knockout.
So now we're stuck down here. It's the Ursaluna up against the Wave Crashing Basculegion. We saw the damage that Pokemon was able to do in that game one. So it could be looking quite a bit dicey. We're going to see what happens here. We do see the Weather Ball. That's just the safest way to guarantee any bit of damage there on the Ursaluna. And we do see the Wave Crash there come out. It's going to go into the Ursaluna there. And that
is going to be game for Lewis Tan, clinching his way into Top Cut. So huge congratulations to Lewis there. Very well played game. So that first game was just an absolute go, go, go. We're clicking Wave Crash and we are winning.
Yeah, Basculegion said, Coach, do I have the green light to go? He's gave it the green light and he's gone. Oh boy. Sometimes going out the gate aggressive game one can seem to be a little bit risky, a little bit unsafe, a little bit, I don't know if I should do that. Lewis has shown us that, yes, that was the right thing to do. Yes, it did work. Yes, I am in a fantastic position mentally going into this game two, knowing all I need to do is play some key pieces right in the game two, and I can have a look at clinching myself into that asymmetrical top cut.
Yeah, but Chylon, unfortunately, whilst not making his way into top cut, still played an absolutely fantastic game. To be on the receiving end of a game one like that and be able to be like, you know what? No, I did everything right. I just had a very bad play at one point in that game. I'm going to bring the exact same 4 Pokemon, and I'm going to go about this a different way. Absolute certainty in this team. That is a player that knows exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, very good deviation there coming out there from Chylon into that game two. We saw that there was a lot of the early switching there into that game one as well. sort of in the game 2 from the game 1 with some great adapting plays, getting that sleep powder in, knowing the priority is let's put the Basque Legion on a stop timer for a little bit. Just let's not let it get too out of hand. We saw what happens if it does get out of hand. Even if it is not in the rain, even in the sun, just those big wave crashes still doing absolutely big damage.
Yeah, absolutely. And Basque Legion showing its absolute worth in that game, despite being asleep for 3 turns, was it? It still managed to be the Pokemon that came in at the very end and got everything done.
Yeah. That's the job that Basque Legion was put to do on that team. Didn't even need to use that Last Respects. We've gone over a little bit of how Last Respects powers are based on the amount of Pokemon that you have fainted on your side. But throughout the entire set, I do believe there was only those 2 knockouts, but it was committed into that wave crash due to 2 of the 3 Pokemon remaining being normal types, so they are immune to that ghost move. But even still, just as that terrestrialization water, that is enough for the wave crash to just run up and get those numbers there. So it was a really nice showcasing of the power of Rain and Basque Legion in the current regulation.
Yeah, absolutely. But even though it wasn't on the winning side, the power of Sun as well. Sun is such a crucial weather as well, to be able to check Rain, to be able to have that kind of offense when you have Trick Room up. Sun is just such a powerful weather, not as usable as Rain is, as easy to use, but when piloted by a player that knows what they're doing and is doing it well, Sun is a fantastic weather.
Yeah, very versatile. You've got some more of these. You got some of these like fast options with your Sun as well. We've seen Sun through some of the players, even some that made phase 2 through the Historian Typhlosion with a fast Eruptor alongside the Torkoal support. We've seen some of them previously as well in those very more Trick Room dedicated, Torkoal being a very slow Pokemon, being able to take big advantage of that. Similar to what we saw here, but sometimes as we saw in the previous round here today in phase 2, we saw more of a dedicated Trick Room oriented style team with the Lilligant as well. Lilligant being the Chlorophyll partner of choice. Chlorophyll, phenomenal to have in Sun as well, allowing its faster sweepers to not be or share the same type as its primary weather setup, having a different type allowing for a bit more type diversity on a team.
Yeah, absolutely. The type diversity, the kind of offense that Lilligant packs as well, combined with that after use support that the boys previously touched on.
Yeah, so it does look like we will be looking to tab to a quick break at the moment, but we will be back with some more action shortly.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. What an exciting round 10 we just saw. And of course, with round 10 concluding, that is the end of that phase of the competition, as we have the top cut bracket being developed and processed as we speak. We'll bring that to you the moment we know. It's very exciting, as these players will be playing in elimination stages until only one remains. Of course, that will be the Brisbane Regional Champion. But I know at home you've been watching us all compete, and you might be thinking, how could we get involved? How could we play in a tournament? Well, what's coming up next weekend?
We can tell you what's coming up next weekend. Next weekend, there is an online event. These events have been called the Grand Challenges. These events are completed online. You connect up and you go through, and there'll be an area in the Poke Portal through the competitive. When you go to do your ranked battles, there'll be a little option there. You'll go through, you'll register a team, make sure to have your teams registered before the event starts, and then you'll go through and you'll have 45 games to play, maxing at 15 games for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. These events go for the weekend, and they do offer championship points, just like we are offering here this weekend.
Yeah, it's really, really easy to get involved because you can play in the comfort of your own home. It's a slightly different format, of course, because you don't have access to the opponent's team and you only play one game. And you play whenever you're available. You can play your 15 games in the morning, you can play them in the afternoon, you can wake up, play a few, come back later in the day. And I'll tell you what, I really enjoy playing in these global challenges. It's a different format, slightly. You can catch your opponent off guard. You can, I know last time I ran Specs Kilowattrel, and I don't think people were expecting the big bird known for Tailwind to go for Volt Switch, and where did your Pokemon go? I'm not sure. Have you had any exciting experiences recently in that?
I'm one of those people that signs up for those events and goes, you know what, we can do something with Armarouge, a Pokemon that we've seen a little bit this weekend. Do a lot of what it can do. We've seen both the Power Herb variant that was ran by Mitch, and we also had the Stored Power Weakness Policy variant. The Stored Power Weakness Policy variant, you get, with its terrestrialized typing, you can find a lot of ways to have Pokemon that can have moves that can pivot in and out or have like a partner attack. We saw with the Earthquake from the Annihilate during phase 1 of the tournament, but that could be something as simple as you could become just a pure psychic type and go for like a U-turn. There's the option of flip turning with Pokemon like Palafin, which can turn up. Palafin we haven't seen too much today. Even like flip turn from the Basculegion. As long as you're not choice banded, you don't want to take the knockout on your partner, of course, when going for those big setups. So yeah, generally those. And you also see a lot of situational moves that you probably wouldn't want to bring in a open team sheet format, which is what we play, where your opponent has information. You can catch a lot of people by surprise, and sometimes because it is that one and done, if you get that one, you're like, yep, okay, so that's worked, we can do it again. People aren't expecting these moves to come out.
Yeah, it's a very exciting tournament, and even if you're not as successful, you don't reach your goals, it's always just good practice to do. And it's a good way to, if you haven't had the opportunity to play in an official tournament yet, it's a good way to, I don't know, open up and get started. Because as soon as you get started, I think you find out that it's quite a fun thing that we're doing in these tournaments, whether it's in the locals, we spoke about locals earlier, in the global challenge, that's a lot of fun. The regionals, very, very fun, and a very, very high level of competition, especially in the second phase of the competition and the top cut that we're going to be seeing quite shortly.
Yeah, we're getting into it quite shortly, so a lot of exciting stuff to come. If you want to check any of the information out, all of it will be on the Pokemon website there. That'll be for the Grand Challenge and also for your local areas as well. You can go and find where locals are happening close to you, and hopefully you'll be going and attending, making some new friends, playing some Pokemon, maybe even potentially attending your first regional during this season. You never know.
Yeah, a good shout out with the locals. I really enjoy locals. I'm quite regularly checking the event locator online. It's a good way to see if there's anything around you. You might not find out if you don't go looking, but it's really, really easy to use and find something. And in fact, when I was here in Brisbane casting this regional, I actually got to compete in a locals while I was here. And it's a good way to meet the people in Brisbane that I don't get to play with as frequently as the people from Sydney, where I'm usually from. So, you know, like I made a lot of good friends. I got to see what's popular here. I saw there's a lot more sun in Brisbane, which is quite contrast to the weather we're seeing, actually.
Yeah, we had quite a lot of sun, and a lot of our sun players as well from Brisbane did make it through to that phase 2. Unfortunately, not being able to clinch their way into getting a record that is allowing them to compete in the asymmetrical top cut. However, still a very strong performance. A lot of them would be happy with how they've placed this weekend. A lot of them getting that 160 championship points at worst. If they've managed to find themselves between 13 to 16, they get even more for that. Better pricing as well for them as well.
Yeah, of course. And I do know that you get rewarded if you do better in the earlier stages. For example, we saw Joji Kaida was the final remaining undefeated player, but I believe we have a few buys for the stronger performing players. I'm sure Joji will get one. I think a few other strong players can also expect to get one.
Yeah, Joji will be one. I do believe Nicholas Kant is another. We did showcase both of those competitors on stream yesterday during phase 1 of the tournament. Both of them have been the only 2 trainers this weekend to finish with that 9-and-run record. So they are the top 2 seeds going into the asymmetrical top cut.
Yes, but again, that bracket's being processed and we'll show it to you. I know I'm excited to see it. You're excited to see it. At the moment we see it, we're very, very excited to share it with all of you today. In fact, here it is right now. Do we want to have a look? So those buys that I was talking about, we had those 2 players who only have lost 1 round. But in addition to those players, we have Lewis Tan, who was previously featured in the last match, actually getting a buy. And then the last one is Kaito Ari from Japan.
Yeah, Kaito Ari was the other player that had an 8-1 record going into the last round of the Swiss that we had here during phase 2. Being able to have a resistance stronger than the rest of the competition out there to be able to secure that 4th seed over everyone else. So Because of the strong Phase 1 and Phase 2 results, have allowed to bypass that top 16, guaranteeing them a spot in our top 8 this weekend.
Yeah, I know. Looking up that top 8 one round earlier, definitely something very, very good for those players. But we also have 8 players who have everything on the line. If they win the next round, they can join these 4 players lucky enough to get a bye. And looking at this bracket, I believe we've chosen the match that we are going to feature. We're looking at Caleb Wijan Sinha, who we had on earlier, versus Scott Kennedy.
Yes, we do. That is the match that we're going to have a look at showcasing here for our top 16 match between these two. As Harry has just said, we do have Caleb shown earlier with a very, very cool Trick Room team. We can run through those now, I believe, Harry.
Yep, we can run through the team. What have we got? So on Scott's side, the team we have not seen yet, it's actually quite interesting. It's the second time we've seen Salamence this weekend. And Salamence, it's not a common pick, but this Salamence is quite different. So I'll just run through the 6 names. We've got Salamence, Dragapult, Volcarona, Incineroar, Weezing, and Ursaluna Bloodmoon. Would you like to run us through them?
Absolutely. So we're just going to start by quickly saying I got 3 of my forecaster picks. Shout outs to Volcarona. So we're pretty happy that we'll take that as a win. A lot of interesting picks here. Weezing, commonly with that new neutralizing gas ability that it did get access to in the Sword and Shield, has coming through to play here for Scott this weekend. Alongside a Salamence, we did see from Daniel that there was the Intimidate Salamence that was coming out. This one is not Intimidate. This one is using its hidden ability Moxie. And when you get a knockout with Moxie, when you make one of your opponent's Pokemon faint using an attack, you get an attack boost. So that, backed by its Choice Scarf, can get the ball rolling, and with the speed advantage, it can become quite nasty. We do see a Dragapult as well. This one is also Choice Banded, but has opted for Terra Ghost, and with Terra Blast as well, as more as a reliable physical ghost attack that it does like to have access to. Looking to synergize well with there. And because we're gonna quickly run into more of the neutralizing gas. Neutralizing gas is an ability that shuts off every other ability. So that Hatterene Magic Bounce, that Torkoal Drought, the Incineroars with Intimidate, as long as Weezing is on the field, they do not have those abilities. Caleb does have a lot of Pokemon on their team with some strong abilities. With Weezing existing on the field, those get shut out. If Weezing is one of the 2 Pokemon that is led from Scott's side, there's going to be no Psychic Terrain, there's going to be no Drought, there's going to be no Intimidate, there's going to be nothing there. Weezing is going to say no. Your way around that is through an Ability Shield, which we do have on Scott's Incineroar. So if Scott's Incineroar is led with his Weezing, the Ability Shield will prevent the neutralizing gas suppression, allowing that to get an Intimidate off. We've gone over a little bit about that. Hopefully we do see more of that. We're going to run back through and quickly have a quick recap of Caleb's side of things. So with that, there's the Torkoal, Hatterene, Female Indeedee, Incineroar, Hisuian, Lilligant, and Farigiraf.
Yeah, so this is quite interesting because Incineroar is quite a common Pokemon, but every single time I'm at the desk, the Incineroar sets just keep getting weirder. Before, we got the Clear Amulet, Terrestrialization, Fighting, Close Combat one that we saw before, but now we've also got an Ability Shield one on the other side. I'm seeing some very innovative Incineroar sets, at least while I'm at the desk. And what's interesting again about this team is I will remind you of the Torkoal and the Lilligant. So the Torkoal has the ability to set the sun, which synergizes really well with Lilligant, whose ability Chlorophyll allows it to be much faster in the sun, twice as fast, typically the fastest thing in play, and offers the move after you for potentially Eruption. But it looks like we've actually got the leads right in front of us here. We've got the Weezing and the Dragapult up against the Indeedee and the Hatterene.
Yeah, we do see that there. The neutralizing gas coming out right out the gate. So there is going to be no Psychic Terrain from Indeedee that normally comes out, blocking those priority moves. The Indeedee is out here, though, can look to potentially protect the Hatterene from a potential Terra Blast. But we're not seeing that. We're seeing a Weezing Terrestrialize, Harry.
The Terra Ghost on the Weezing here next to the Dragapult. We have 2 Ghost types on this side now, dropping the Poison typing as the Dragapult goes for a U-turn. Super effect, doing a lot of damage into that Indeedee as we switch out and we see who's going to come in from the back from Scott here. It looks like the Volcarona's coming in. And we'll have to see what this Indeedee and this Hatterene go for, as the Weezing goes for the taunt into the Indeedee, not allowing it to go for Follow Me's or Trick Rooms in future turns, as the Trick Room fails on the Indeedee, but the Hatterene also goes for the Trick Room here.
Yeah, good double Trick Room there from Caleb, covering and respecting the taunt coming out there from the Weezing, knowing that the neutralizing gas is out. Hatterene can normally stop those taunts with its Magic Bounce, but in front of Weezing, it's not able to be the case. So going for the double Trick Room there, if there's no taunt, can be risky, because setting Trick Room and then setting Trick Room again basically cancels out the Trick Room, but covering that one there, Trick Room is up because the taunt was called correctly. So we're going to see the Hatterene switching out now as it was taunted.
Yes, the Indeedee switching into the Incineroar here. There is no Intimidate as long as that neutralizing gas is in play, but it's not going to matter too much in front of these special attackers, as we've got the switch into the Incineroar with the Intimidate that does activate, because this one is holding the ability shield, ignoring that neutralizing gas. Putting the Intimidate on the Hatterene and not on the Incineroar because of that Clear Amulet, as the Protect comes out from the Weezing, looking to make it through this turn, as the Expanding Force does not affect the Dark-type Incineroar.
Yeah, looking for that Volcarona there. Without that Psychic Terrain, the Expanding Force is only going to be targeting one of the opposing Pokemon at the time, electing to go for the Volcarona there with the Incineroar in. Incineroar looking like it can put a bit of pressure on that Weezing, as it is a Ghost type now. It's going to be hitting some big, super effective knockoffs that can come out there. We do also see that there is the option for Caleb's Incineroar to have that Terra-fighting close combat. And by the looks of things, it looks like there is going to be a Terrestrialization from Caleb's, and it is on the Incineroar. It's going to be fighting Incineroar.
Yes, the fighting Incineroar. We saw it in round 9, the exact same Incineroar, and we're going Terra fighting again. This Incineroar looking to punch a little bit harder, I think, as the fake out. We're not going to be able to see what the Incineroar goes for here, as the Dazzling Gleam comes out. Wow, that's a lot of damage into the Weezing, as the Life Orb recoil picks through, and the Sludge Bomb coming out into the Fairy type Hatterene, doing quite a lot of damage with that super effective option.
Yeah, big damage there coming out there from that Weezing. The Hatterene doing a lot of damage there, as it is holding the Life Orb item, giving its moves a little bit more power behind it at the cost of some of its HP. Still enough HP though to be able to tank that Sludge Bomb there from Weezing, allowing it to stay alive on the field. Incineroar can still look at threatening. It is in a position, because it has the close combat, it can look at threatening both the opposing Weezing and the Incineroar there. So Scott's going to have a look at that and think, what do I need to preserve in this matchup?
So it looks like the Incineroar wants to be preserved, as it switches off the field as the Volcarona comes in. Bug typing actually resists fighting, so it could be a good switch if we see the close combat. And then the Weezing goes for the Protect here, as we have the Dazzling Gleam coming out. Volcarona should be able to shrug this one off, because that fire typing proving quite beneficial here, doing a reasonable chunk of damage into that Volcarona. Again, that Life Orb, but the Trick Room turns also ticking down, and then knock off into the Volcarona. Good amount of damage.
Yeah, it was an excellent call out there from Caleb there. Had a gut feeling that the Incineroar might look to swap out, and if it doesn't, you do get to knock off that Ability Shield. So it means if it does look to pivot in and out with Weezing on the field, its ability will be suppressed with an Ability Shield gone. However, you can't slouch at a big damage on the Volcarona, knowing that the Volcarona does have the option to go for the Terra Grass and the Giga Drain that is on the Volcarona set, so it can look at getting that health back. So getting big damage on it as swiftly as possible can end up being quite beneficial for Caleb, as we see the Volcarona switch out again.
Yeah, Scott Kennedy loves to switch his Pokemon. A lot of defensive maneuvers here to make it through the Trick Room, as the Incineroar comes in, Intimidate coming through again. Not going to matter on the Hatterene, not going to matter with the Clear Amulet, as the Dazzling Gleam does, wow, a lot of damage taking the knockout on the Weezing. I was not expecting that, actually.
Yeah, so there's damage variation on attacks there. We saw the first one doing a little bit over that 50% mark. We do have that leftovers on the Weezing, healing it a little bit, but the damage range was larger on the second Dazzling Gleam, being able to knock it out. And we do see the knockoff there, taking the knockout on that Incineroar as well. Putting Caleb up 2-4 into the backline there, knocking off that Ability Shield. Trick Room's gone as well. So we will see what Scott can do to look at dragging that one back. We do know that it is the weakened Volcarona beside the Choice Banded Dragapult. We saw the Dragapult lead in that game one.
Yeah, so these knockouts very, very valuable for the side of Caleb, but the Trick Room reversing, very valuable for the side of Scott Kennedy. So we'll have to see what happens here, as the Dragapult should be the fastest thing on the field, very much known for its high offensive capabilities with the Choice Band, but also that very, very high speed stat. And we'll have to see what the Volcarona can do next to it, as players are looking to finish this game as it's coming towards its natural conclusion. So we've got the Dragon Darts coming out, doing a good amount of damage to that Incineroar, and hitting it twice because of the Fairy typing on that Hatterene as the Heatwave finishes off both targets.
Yeah, excellent call out there from Scott there, knowing how Dragon Darts work with that smart targeting, knowing that there's a Fairy type on the field, both of those targets will go straight into the Incineroar, covering the double knockout there, and maybe potential switches as well with the Heatwave there from the Volcarona. In the back, we are going to see a very low Indeedee that we saw earlier taking that Choice Banded U-turn alongside the Torkoal, which is the revealed fourth Pokemon from Caleb's. And Caleb's Torkoal not going to be able to protect in front of anything as it is holding the Choice Specs.
Yeah, so interesting position here. As I said, it was 4-2 advantage, but the Trick Room reversing, proving to be very valuable for Scott straight away as he takes 2 knockouts in return. We've got an interesting board position. The Torkoal not exactly where it wants to be, but with the Choice Specs, it is offering a decent amount of damage here. We'll have to see what move that the Torkoal locks into here as the Indeedee goes for the Follow Me, because we know the Dragapult needs to go for the Dragon Darts here. And I believe with the smart targeting, the second dart doesn't find a home.
Yeah, I do not believe it does not fire in with the redirection there. It does look to drag all of it completely to the Indeedee, so it just means the singular Heat Wave onto the Torkoal. Torkoal's going to fire off with its own Heat Wave, dealing big damage, knocking out the Volcarona there, getting a critical hit on the Dragapult. Unfortunately, not doing too much. If there was a burn, maybe Torkoal can be there on a whim and a prayer, but now it's got to stare down Choice Banded Dragapult, taking 2 Dragon Darts, unfortunately, is not enough there for it to clinch it out. If that Heat Wave does burn, halving the physical damage that can be brought out, that would have been able to potentially given Caleb a way into winning that game 1. Very well played from both of these trainers here. Scott played the end game very well, getting rid of those last Trick Room turns, be able to position Dragapult well to be able to do cleanup with that Dragon Darts, and keeping the Volcarona alive as well, preserving that health to be able to finish off the Hatterene, knowing that the Dragapult can comfortably lock into that Dragon move into that late game.
Yeah, quite an exciting game. It just proves how quickly the momentum can shift, particularly with these Trick Room or alternatively Tailwind teams where you've got control of the speed for a limited amount of time. Because we could see that it did look like Caleb was in a pretty commanding position, but as soon as those dimensions flipped, the Dragapult was a very, very good Pokemon to have, and that Volcarona cleaning up what the Dragapult couldn't do.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what key adjustments can look to be made. The Weezing putting in quite a strong amount of effort there with a bit of its disruption. The smart play from Caleb there assuring itself to get up the Trick Room in front of the taunt, calling out the taunt, going, it doesn't matter which one of these Pokemon you would like to taunt, I'm going to click Trick Room on both of them regardless, meaning that one of them will be able to get it off. Feeling confident that Indeedee can live that Choice Banded U-turn. If that U-turn does end up critical hitting in that game 1, maybe we do see a different game altogether. But alas, it wasn't the case, and we did get to see the mindset of Caleb being able to cover those bases. It will be interesting to see if there is an adaptation made from there going into that game 2, whether we do see a potential Lilligant. If we see the potential Frigoraph, maybe a bit tough in front of that Weezing. And it will be... I would like to see the Salamence, but I can understand why, if a game plan worked game 1, sometimes the best adjustment is no adjustment. We are going to see a small adjustment from Scott's end with the Volcarona lead instead of the Dragapult in this game 1. The Indeedee and Hatterene from Caleb's end.
Yes, so Weezing and the Volcarona staring off against that Indeedee and the Hatterene. Again, that neutralizing gas, not allowing the Psychic Terrain to set up. So those expanding forces, as long as the Psychic Terrain is not in play, will only be single target and will be doing quite a bit less damage. The Weezing threatening a taunt on both slots this turn, similar to last game, and the Volcarona not threatening as much damage as the Dragapult would have been in this position.
That is true. However, it is carrying the Struggle Bug. Struggle Bug, one of those moves similar to Snarl, where it is a spread move that drops the special attack of both of the targets it does hit. With the Hatterene not being Covert Cloak, it will take those drops. But we will see if we see that. We do see the Weezing go for the Terrestrialization Ghost turn 1 in this game 2, similar to how it played out in the game 1, Harry.
Yeah, similar strategy to game 1, going for that Terrestrialization of the Ghost type, as we've got the Follow Me, a deviation coming from the Indeedee here, hoping to take the attacks. The Struggle Bug, with its spread move, it will hit both targets, but I think, more importantly, trying to catch maybe a taunt to guarantee the Trick Room, and the special attack dropping on both Pokemon. The Hatterene particularly not enjoying that drop, as the taunt comes out into the Indeedee, preventing it from doing future follow me's or trick rooms if they want for the rest of this game, as the trick room is set up, and we're going to have to see what Caleb can do while these dimensions are flipped.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see that, especially where the Hatterene took a little more damage than we would have anticipated because it did get critical hit, unfortunately, by that Struggle Bug. We do have the option to see, is it worth with the Hatterene going in, just still looking to deal as much damage as possible despite being at -1? Will it be able to find a safe way into the back line to be able to push out some damage from that end? We will see. We'll see coming soon as the Incineroar is coming in over the Indeedee.
Yes, the Indeedee switching out for the Incineroar as the Expanding Force single target because we didn't have the chance to get the train up into the Volcarona, doing respectable damage and crucially no protect on the Wheezing as it goes for this Sludge Bomb into the Incineroar and a second Struggle Bug, looking to try and reduce as much damage as possible from that Hatterene, the big offensive Trick Room threat.
Yeah, it does look like Scott has deviated that the Game 1 plan into a different Game 2 game plan, looking to say, yeah, you know what, you can get your Trick Room up, that's fine. I'm going to have the Volcarona in. I'm just going to look at offset and minimizing your damage as much as possible on your Hatterene just by using Struggle Bug consistently. It also means that you wouldn't be able to get the Torkoal in because if the Torkoal comes in to take the Struggle Bug, it's going to suffer those same drops there on the special attack. We do see the Hatterene switch out for the Torkoal though this turn.
Yeah, great call out. So the Hatterene trying to reset those drops, and we're running out of Trick Room turns, so we really need to get that Torkoal in as the Ursaluna switches. So there's no Struggle Bug coming out, and the Protect comes out from the Wheezing, looking to not take some damage from the knockoff. But the knockoff targeting the Ursaluna does not fall for the bait of that Ghost type in front of the Dark type.
Yeah, not falling for that one. Also getting rid of the neutralizing gas as well would also be something that could see quite beneficial from Caleb's and being able to get access to that Psychic Surge, Psychic Terrain, getting access back to the Drought to allow Torkoal to hit just as hard. We are going to see Wheezing leave the field, so we are going to get abilities back. The Incineroar is going to be able to get an Intimidate off on the Ursaluna. We are going to see the Torkoal Drought come back, and we know that Torkoal is choice specs. It's going to be firing off some big damage on anything that comes in. I don't even think this Incineroar would even want to take a hit as big as what Torkoal can provide.
Yeah, that's right. As long as the Wheezing was in play, the Sun couldn't be set up. And now the Sun's here. Torkoal is firing on all cylinders here. Even more as the Torkoal terrestrializes to the Fire type, looking to stack as much damage as possible. We didn't have this much time in the Trick Room, but we need to make every second we've got here count. As the Vacuum Wave is coming out, looking to reduce the damage of that Eruption, as the Eruption is going to be doing a lot of damage into these two slots. Let's see how they take it. The Ursaluna knocked out the Incineroar, resisting it, but taking
that was a big critical hit there on that Incineroar. Incineroar not expecting to take quite as much from that. That has allowed it to take a significant chunk. With that knockout so close to the knockout there, Incineroar being able to hold on. Knocking off the ability shield, though, it does mean if Wheezing does come in and come out, it'll allow the ability shield Incineroar to be able to actually get more Intimidates off. So a little bit of a blessing in that sense. We do have the Incineroar live with the fake out on Scott's end, though, so we do need to take that into account. With the Wheezing back on the field, there is not a way to get the Psychic Surge back in, so that fake out can be fired out on either slot at Scott's. As Scott pleases.
Yeah, so very briefly there was an opportunity to set the Psychic Terrain, but very, very quickly that opportunity has closed as the Wheezing returns to the field. This is, I believe, the last turn of Trick Room, so the Incineroar on the other side could prevent the Torkoal from attacking in this last turn. We'll have to see. Yes, that fake out comes out from the Torkoal, saying next turn Torkoal will not be the fastest thing on the field, so we won't deal with it now. And then knockoff finishing off that Incineroar. Critical hit, I don't think that would matter, but the Eruption earlier proving to do quite a bit more damage.
Going to see the Wheezing ram out there, just with a Sludge Bomb there, just good damage there onto that Torkoal. Getting the poison as well, so Torkoal is now just going to be on that slow timer. Weakening that Specs Eruption power as well, so that Eruption isn't going to be doing quite as much as Torkoal would like it to do. It does have the option, if it switches out and switches back in, it will have the option to change up its moves for a Heat Wave, which we did see in Game 1 that it does have that option to do so. But looking at the board of things as well, the Volcarona is back. There may be a possibility that if we can, we would like to try and get Trick Room up and have Torkoal look at going through, just maybe landing one Heat Wave in those Trick Room conditions. That might be all it takes. But we do see the Volcarona just go for the Heat Wave, taking out the Torkoal.
Yep, so the Torkoal not in the happiest positions there after the HP was reduced by those attacks and the Trick Room was reversed, looking to just allow it to go down here as the Sludge Bomb goes into the Incineroar. The Incineroar living. These Sludge Bombs, they like to poison, that's for sure. That's 2 in a row from the Weezing as the Flare Blitz in the sun does a lot of damage and takes the knockout on that Volcarona. A crucial piece of Game 1 now removed in Game 2.
Yeah, the sun-boosted Flare Blitz there, nothing to scoff at. Caleb's got that terrifying in close combat, so you know it's with the clear amulet as well. You know it's got to be a bit more on the aggressive side when it comes to those hits there. But we do have 2 Pokemon left, the Indeedee and the Hatterene. This can be something very easy. There's a lot of plays there that can be made from Caleb's, and it's going to be interesting to see what Scott can do to have a look at adapting. With its only attacking move being the Sludge Bomb, it can only really pick down 1 Pokemon at a time here.
Yeah, the Sludge Bomb, it's a good targeting into the Hatterene, but as long as the Indeedee's there, it might not be able to be easy to get that Sludge Bomb in. With that Follow Me, we see the Follow Me coming out, looking to redirect whatever move this Weezing chooses to go for, as the Sludge Bomb into the Indeedee, not doing too much damage, as Hatterene sets the Trick Room again for another few turns.
Yeah, Indeedee more than happy to take those Sludge Bombs consistently. Unless there's a taunt coming out there on that Indeedee, I can foresee that one clicking Follow Me for the remainder of the game. Weezing is opting to protect, looking to try and burn through those Trick Room turns as much as possible while avoiding being taken out, trying to avoid a potential Game 3 situation here in this top cut bracket.
Yes, of course, the Protect's there because the Weezing is happier outside of the reversed dimensions, and it looks like we've got another turn in Trick Room here, looking to probably do quite a similar play because the Sludge Bomb could be quite devastating into that Hatterene. So we've got the Follow Me coming out again from that Indeedee, hoping to take an attack as the Expanding Force comes out first, doing a lot of damage actually with that Life Orb boost, of course, and the Sludge Bomb coming out into the Indeedee, doing a good amount of damage, and the Leftovers Recovery coming in.
So it's going to be big there for Weezing. Unfortunately, not being able to nab any poisons there on the Indeedee. The Indeedee is something they would be able to, if it gets the initial poison, being able to alternate protects. Poison potentially might have been able to put it in and do its thing. But Indeedee's just still hitting, still healthy, just going, yep, throw a few more of those Sludge Bombs my way. Hatterene is going to be our key to victory here, as it's going to be the one throwing out the damage, as we've basically seen going into this turn. There was the Protect there, some more Leftovers Recovery, another turn of Trick Room Burnt. There may be look at potential of going for, sometimes they could be called risky, the double protect, a small chance that you can get 2 protects in a row to allow it to stall. That extra turn of Trick Room that could be fatal for Scott.
Looks like we're going for the double protect, and unfortunately it's going to be failing here. So it looks like this Hatterene is free to put potentially the final attack in this game. As we'll see, it goes for the Expanding Force into the Weezing, and it's enough for the knockout. So it looks like that is a win here for Caleb.
And we're going to see a Game 3 here between these two today. Caleb with the good adjustment there, being able to get the Torkoal in and just being able to do that big damage. Even though at the end of the game, with the neutralizing gas on, we're going to have the Psychic Surge come out. The Life Orb is there as well. And we do know that the Hatterene is Psychic Seed. Very fortunate for us that we don't have to see that proc as well. Just because when that Psychic Seed activates, just more text that comes through and it will just get through. So we're past that. We're going to go through to that Game 3. We did see that Scott did make some adjustments, not bringing that Dragapult, looking for the Ursaluna and the Volcarona lead instead. Not working out, probably expecting a potential adjustment from Caleb there. Falling a bit short. The game plan with the Volcarona there, just going for those Struggle Bugs. Looked like it was initially working out, slowing down the Hatterene early. But with the Torkoal coming in, just being able to get off even just that one single big eruption, even though it had taken the vacuum away from the Ursaluna Blood Moon in the Trick Room, was still able to deal. You saw the damage, Harry.
Yeah,
with the Assault that's knocked off there, it was absolutely massive damage there. So it will be interesting to see if we have the Dragapult brought around here for that Game 3. If we do see that Salamence, because the Salamence is mentioned in Choice Scarf, it's also got a throwback to some of you older players as well. Rock Slide has a 30% chance to flinch a target. With the redirection and the Hatterene not being Cobra Cloak, it is exposed to potential Rock Slide flinches. It is an option if Scott wants to go and just go, you know what? This might be a cheekier way to stop the Trick Room going up there. If you can't move at all, that'll be all it is. That'll be all I'll need. But we'll see if that ends up being the adjustment as we go into Game 3 here.
It looks like we've got the Game 1 leads, the more offensive Pokemon in Dragapult, accompanied by that trusty Weezing, not letting the Psychic Terrain get set up as it's staring down the Indeedee and the Hatterene here. We'll have to see, because the turn 1 of Game 1, we'll have to see if they make any deviations from the game plan from both sides, because the Dragapult right now looks really good, but if that Trick Room gets set up, it definitely doesn't want to be stuck on the field with this high-speed stat.
Yeah, the Dragapult there going for the U-turn, knowing that the Indeedee can live it though, with that information in Caleb's mind. Caleb looking go, you know what, maybe I might be able to go for a Follow Me U-turn as opposed to a Follow Me Trick Room, as opposed to the double Trick Room, looking at a potential way to save it. But we do see the Weezing does not want to be a poison type in this matchup at all. We see the immediate Ghost Crystallization in this Game 3 as well from Scott, as we see the Follow Me from Indeedee looking to potentially go and redirect those hits. There's that U-turn again, doing it's a little bit more damage as we spoke about those damage ranges. There's a small window that you might be able to do slightly more, slightly less, all depending there. Incineroar is coming in, and I have a sneaking suspicion that some dimensions are going to get a bit weird after this Hatterene is able to move.
I do think so. Quite crucial for the strategy. We've got the Sludge Bomb finishing off the Indeedee here, actually. So there is no potential for Psychic Terrain for the rest of this game, thanks to that Weezing. And we've got the Trick Room being set up for Hatterene, but taking the knockout on the Indeedee, it might be what Caleb wants, because it gives him a good opportunity to switch in a different Pokemon capable of doing more offensive damage than the Indeedee.
Yeah, it does give the option for Caleb to do that. He does have to pick it wisely though, because Fake Out is live on the board from Scott's end as well. With the Incineroar coming in from Caleb's end, the Fake Out is also live from Caleb's Incineroar as well. So it'll be interesting to see what does like to be happen there, and see what option Hatterene wants to go for. We are going to see the Weezing swap out, so we are going to see an Intimidate go off.
Yes, this one's actually going to go off because there's no clear amulet on Scott's side. So the Incineroar's attack stat will be reduced here as the Volcarona comes in. 3 fire types on the field, actually. Fake Out goes into the Incineroar, so it looks like Scott won't be able to do anything this turn in terms of damage, as the Dazzling Gleam finds its mark on the Incineroar and the Volcarona.
Yeah, doing a very solid amount to the Incineroar there as it's fire typing. While resistant to Fairy, the Dark type is weak to Fairy, so offsetting those, as opposed to the Volcarona, which is just a Fire and Bug type, which will be able to take those Fairy moves much nicer than what you would expect. The Volcarona potentially going to look at getting a a Struggle Bug off or two to offset the Hatterene damage. But we are seeing the Incineroar swap out, and we're going back into Weezing here.
Yeah, so the Weezing is coming back in here. Looks like Scott likes to make the defensive switches while the Trick Room is up, as the Dazzling Gleam comes out doing very, very good damage to the Weezing, and another resisted hit into the Volcarona, but every bit counts. And we've got the Flare Blitz coming out here into the Volcarona, taking the knockout again. It looks like that Flare Blitz crucial in this matchup for removing Volcarona, that big threat.
Yeah, very powerful Flare Blitz there coming out for the Incineroar. Incineroar we know for normally fulfilling that supportive functioning role. It does have it has quite a high attack stat, so it can make good use of that, and Caleb putting that on display there with some of those big Flare Blitzes there. We do have the Incineroar coming out here. We don't have the Intimidate, thanks to the Ability Shield. However, with the Clear Amulet, the Incineroar is not going to be getting any of those stab drops, so it's still going to be as strong as it needs to be. But however, for Scott's end, there is the Fake Out option available for the Incineroar now. And there is also the Sludge Bomb option coming out here from Weezing as well. There's also the possibility of potentially going for a Taunt. But from what we can see on the field there, Incineroar does carry 4 attacking moves, so Taunt won't be too effective on that. And Hatterene's already in Trick Room, so it might not want to do that. It's just opted to go for a Protect instead.
Yes. Another Protect for the Weezing, hoping to see the other side of these Twisted Dimensions. And the Fake Out coming out into the Incineroar as the Dazzling Gleam again comes out. Of course, the Protect keeping the Weezing nice and safe. And good damage to the Incineroar, holding on just a sliver here. One more attack might be enough to remove that from the field.
Yeah, Incineroar still kicking and screaming there. Weezing still previously damaged from when it came in. The Leftovers recovery will be able to heal that. We still have some time in Trick Room for Hatterene to look at getting off some more damage with those Dazzling Gleams. Even though it's not the strongest move in the world, it's getting the job done as it is. The Weezing going for the double protect, unfortunately failing there for Scott. As we're going to see the Dazzling Gleam there, looking to pick up the Incineroar and almost picking up the Weezing as well.
Yeah, so the double protect there, really hoping to see the other side of the Twisted Dimensions. The previous turn, the protect, it is now a sitting duck in front of that knockoff, as we see coming out for the Incineroar. Enough to finish off the Weezing, and we're going to get our abilities back, although neither of them are going to immediately do something. Intimidate, seeing no Pokemon, and the Magic Bounce could be useful for the taunt, but again, that Weezing has just been removed from the field.
Oh, yeah, the left has been knocked off. The Twisted Dimensions has returned to normal. So with that knockout there, I do believe we are sitting here. There is the Dragapult. The Dragapult is choice banded though, so it has to lock into a move. With that Fairy-type Hatterene still being around on the field, its best move to lock into his U-turn is able to get a critical hit to knock out the Hatterene. So that is going a little bit into the Dragapult's favor, knowing it might need a few more of those. But this knockoff here is going to do tremendous damage, and that is enough to take out the Dragapult, getting Caleb the victory and advancing through the top cut bracket.
Yeah, so very similar to game one, that ending, but I think the crucial difference there is the Pokemon that were preserved on the other side of the Trick Room. On Scott's side, previously he had the Dragapult accompanied by that Volcarona, and then on that last turn at Trick Room, we could see that he could actually quite quickly finish off the 4 Pokemon remaining. But then in this game, it was not enough, and I think crucially, the Fairy typing on the Hatterene means that they could not click for a Dragon Darts in that endgame.
Yeah, can't go for the Dragon Darts because it will target the other. It'll target the other side, but it won't be able to do anything to the Fairy type Hatterene, and there would be no reason to have a look at changing that Hatterene with any sort of Terrestrialization from Caleb's end. So yeah, very well played and very well positioned by Caleb getting into that end game. It's very much putting Scott in a pin position going. You have to make a decision now. I feel pretty fine going for the knockoff here. It's going to look to knock out. I'm pretty fine going for a Life Orb, Dazzling Gleam. Dragapult, unfortunately, being that Ghost and Fairy typing, as great as typing as it can be sometimes, it is weak to both the combination of knockoff and Dazzling Gleam, specifically in this endgame. Bit rough there, but very well played by both phenomenal performances to reach this level of the tournament.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, both the games that I've been privileged enough to cast today, the abilities have been a little bit weird, because the first game, there was Skill Spot passing them all around. Of course, talking about round 9. And then this game, no abilities except for Incineroar with the ability shield, but one step ahead with the Clear Amulet, not allowing that Incineroar to get intimidated, which I think was quite crucial for that game, because we saw the Flare Blitzes coming out into the Volcarona doing quite a lot of damage in the first game. I believe it was in the Sun, able to do a lot of damage, but then in the second game needed to do about half the health of the Volcarona. And I would suspect if the Intimidates were allowed to come through, but that Clear Amulet blocking it, the Volcarona would have been able to hang on through those hits and potentially provide a little bit of damage or damage control through the Struggle Bug in the end of that game.
Yeah, I'm still just absolutely... My mind is absolutely blown still just by how much that Torkoal has done in the Sun with the Terrestrialization of the Fire, with that Eruption, with those choice specs. That Incineroar, I don't think I've seen an Incineroar take that much damage from a resisted hit ever.
Yeah, I do think crucially they went for the Terrafire there, and at the time the Weezing was in play, but the Weezing switched out, giving the Sun to the Torkoal. I think the Weezing was kind of forced out by the offensive pressure, so it was reasonably likely to expect that to happen, and if it didn't happen, maybe take the knockout on the Weezing, and the Weezing was quite crucial for the chances to win that game, trying to preserve it through the Trick Room. I think this game it's a good display of the kind of shifting momentum. I mentioned it before, but while you're in the Trick Room, it's very much in the Trick Room player's favor, but you're always on the back foot, making these defensive plays, a lot of switching from Scott here and there, and then if you can make it to the other side of the Trick Room, the question is, which Pokemon have you preserved and how much hit points do they have remaining? And is that enough to swing back now that the momentum is firmly in your favor? And in game 1, we saw that it was the Volcarona and the Dragapult very strong. But then in game 3, only the Dragapult, and it just couldn't finish off those last remaining Pokemon.
Yeah, we did also see as well, we saw, and we mentioned earlier, that a lot of Caleb's Pokemon do really appreciate their abilities, as we saw that there was I believe Psychic Surge was set up once, and that was at the very end of game 2, alongside the Intimidate's not coming out as frequently. There's no Magic Bounce to stop those taunts, and stuff like the Lilligant, even though we didn't get to see it, it does have access to that Chlorophyll and the Drought as well. So being able to have a Pokemon that really do thrive off having abilities be a very key part of their kit, to be able to come through and pull a successful win into a Pokemon like Weezing and a team built around, we don't necessarily need our abilities. We are Pokemon that have just the kits and the moves and whatnot to drive and get through games to make it through this far. I think that's shown by just excellent from Caleb there, being able to play around that, having that in mind during that set.
Yeah, absolutely. The Hatterene, no slouch. There's no psychic terrain up, but I could just click the single target expanding force. Why not? It does a lot of damage. We saw it did about half the health of the Weezing. In between some leftovers recovery, enough damage to finish it off after 2 hits. So, yes, the abilities, we really appreciate them, and it's pretty annoying that we don't get to set our Sun, our psychic terrain, but we're just going to fight through it anyway.
Yeah, done very well. Congratulations to Caleb once again. Very unfortunate there for Scott. The run cut a little short, but however, making it through to the asymmetrical top cut's definitely not something to be too upset about. So, yeah, big congratulations to both of those trainers today. We're going to look to see Caleb move on forward, and we're going to run through. I believe we're going to take it to a brief break now. We should be back with some more top cut action with you shortly.
Hello and welcome back, trainers, to the 2026 Brisbane Regional Championships. I'm here at the caster desk with Jack, and we are here to bring you the first match of our top 8 top cut. Jack, are you excited?
I'm very excited. I can't wait. This is the absolute pinnacle of the tournament. Whoever wins here, they get to move on to the top 4. They get to move on to the semifinals and then to the finals. Whoever loses, that's it. That's their tournament run done.
Yeah, exactly. It's everything to play for here. It's so intense. I'm particularly excited because top 8, what we're actually bringing you this round is Yoav Reuven. Some of you who were watching yesterday might remember that Yoav was actually having an interview with us where he explained that his goal for this tournament was to make top 8 because he's never done so before. He's now here. He's done it. He's in top 8. So he's made it to his goal. And now we've got to see if he can take it further than that, go all the way and win. It will be a very tricky one, though, as his opponent is Joji. I don't know if you want to tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, Joji, I believe, eliminated Yoav at last time there was a regulation age tournament. Is that correct? Or?
Yeah. So a while ago at a separate large tournament, I believe it was Melbourne or Perth, last regulation age tournament. Yoav said, I'll be fine. I'll be able to make it into top 8 as long as I pair against anyone that isn't Joji Kaida. Then guess what happened?
Joji Kaida.
Exactly right. And now they're paired up again. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how Yoav is faring mentally, in terms of how he's prepared for that. It's quite possible that they're both running different teams and that matchup might not be a concern for Yoav. But it'll be really interesting to see if he's actually able to, be able to get that redemption and be able to get that win against Joji and proceed further, where previously last time he was taken out by him at that Perth Regional Championships.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially now that Yoav has accomplished his goal of making that top 8. He's set out for what he wanted to do and he's taken it. Now it's just all about pushing that goal further. He has achieved what he's wanted and now all that pressure is off his shoulders. He can finally let loose and he can absolutely go in. Whereas Joji might be aiming for a little bit higher. We didn't actually get to speak with him at the end of his match, unfortunately, but might have higher goals and might still be feeling that pressure, might still, be locked in and might still be in his own head, whereas Yoav might be able to just take that just purely on the mental game alone.
Exactly. Look, that's very fair, but I think it's also very safe to say that absolutely Yoav had that goal of top 8, which he has achieved. I don't think anyone's going to get to that point and rest on their laurels. I don't think once you're there, it's like, that's fine. If I lose, I'm happy. I've made top 8. And these people, they're in the quarterfinals, right? They can taste victory, and they want it. They all want it. So absolutely. I'm sure he's just as keen as Joji to be, smashing through, winning all the way to the top. He's obviously achieved his first goal, but now that he's here, he's going to want to go all the way.
Absolutely. It's the mindset of a winner right there.
Absolutely. So they've got 2 quite interesting teams for us. So Joji has been running a team that we've been seeing pretty consistently over this tournament. I keep shouting it out as the popular Australian team. The Porygon 2, the Ursaluna, the Kilowattrel. I'm a big fan. I love Kilowattrel. I love watching this team play out. Every time I see it, I'm just so glad that it's doing so well. I'm particularly intrigued by the Ursaluna. A lot of the time, Ursaluna on these sorts of teams, on Joji's side of the field, it tends to run that ghost terrestrialization. Keeps it safe on those fake outs for when it's wanting to, start swinging with those facades, those headlong rushes. It also keeps it safe on things like a close combat from a Sneasler or something along those lines. So it's quite a good defensive terror. However, Joji in this case has actually opted for the Fairy terrestrialization on the Ursaluna. Still a strong choice against things like that close combat from the Sneasler, but it does still leave you vulnerable to the fake out. So I'll be very curious to know the reasoning that Joji had behind making that change. Along with that, this is a standard 6 we've seen plenty of times before. We've got the Amoonguss, we've got the Incineroar, we've got the Golden Go. 3 very fantastic, strong Pokemon that could just excel in really any team you put them on in the Regulation H tournament.
Absolutely. We see them all over the place, especially over on Yoav's side. We do also see the Incineroar and the Golden Go. We also see Yoav running the Rillaboom, the Sneasler, the Ursaluna Blood Moon, and of course the Alolan Ninetales.
Yeah. So that Alolan Ninetales is one we've seen a lot this tournament. Shown its merit many times. With the Blizzard and the ability to set Aurora Veil. It's also very, very fast, so it can take advantage of things like the Icy Wind. It's also got Taunt and Encore, a lot of options that it can really use to support its team, but it's also, like I said, it's got that Blizzard to output that offensive pressure.
Yeah, it's such an interesting Pokemon. Most of the times that we do see these support Pokemon, they're normally running a entirely support role, whether they're built very defensively in order to tank a lot of hits, or they're built very fast in order to just throw out these support moves and just support whatever's next to them. Alolan Ninetales is an interesting case. It gets to have that Blizzard that it just gets to throw out. Absolutely no way to miss it. But we're getting into this game right now, and we're seeing the Rillaboom and the Ursaluna Blood Moon over on Yoav's side.
Yeah, and on Joji's side, we have the Golden Go and the Amoonguss.
Yeah, so all incredibly, incredibly strong Pokemon here. The Ursaluna Blood Moon has that instant potential to just throw out very, very strong moves for Yoav, whereas Joji seems like he'd rather set up that Golden Go, get a nasty pot off in order to increase the power of these Make It Rains that it's wanting to throw out and not be too held back by the special attack drop. But we're seeing a terrestrialization come out from Joji's side in order to a dragon type terrestrialization.
Yeah, very, very defensive typing there for Joji. I imagine trying to keep the Golden Go safe from something like a Blood Moon coming out from Yoav's side of the field, and also potentially a high horsepower coming out from the Rillaboom as well. So just really trying to keep it safe while it's doing that nasty plot. Ursaluna, on the other hand, opting for that Calm Mind, obviously a similar tactic to the Golden Go, trying to set up and really get itself prepared for the following rounds.
Yeah, absolutely. The Ursaluna being set up, it does a lot of damage without any setup going on whatsoever. Setting up that Calm Mind, not only bolstering its special defense, but also building up its special attack that it's firing off these incredibly strong attacks with.
Yeah, of course. Something we've also seen before with this Ursaluna is the leftovers, plus the grassy terrain coverage from that Rillaboom. But we see the high horsepower coming out into the Amoonguss. That is going to be a critical hit. Which is going to do a respectable amount of damage. Here comes the +2 Make It Rain from the Golden Go. It's not going to pick up either knockout.
Either KOs.
That is pretty huge for Yoav's side of the field. You kind of expect that coming out of +2 Make It Rain. But Ursaluna fires back with the Blood Moon. That is going to pick up that knockout. That +1 on the special attack from the Ursaluna Blood Moon. And also the +1 special defense from the Calm Mind from the previous turn really allowed it to tough out that Make It Rain, where otherwise that definitely would have been a knockout. Meanwhile, the Rillaboom holding the Assault Vest also allows it to tough out that really, really hard-hitting special attack.
Yeah, absolutely. But this does set up for the Amoonguss to be able to put that Ursaluna to sleep. So unfortunately, it's not going to be doing anything next turn, whether or not Yoav wishes to switch it out, or if he wants to keep it in order to burn those turns of sleep, that Ursaluna isn't able to get off another move.
Yeah. So definitely a spore quite good from Joji's side of the field, being able to slow down that +1 Ursaluna. But I still think Yoav is in a very, very good spot here. He's taken out that threat from Joji's side of the field. Joji's terrestrialization is now gone, whereas Yoav still has access to his. And Yoav also, his Ursaluna, despite being low health and asleep, as I've called out before, it's got the leftovers, it's got the grassy terrain, it actually recovers its health very, very quickly. So we are going to see the Amoonguss switch out there from Joji's side of the field, going for a bit of a reposition here, bringing in his own Ursaluna.
Yeah, so his Hisuian form as opposed to Yoav's Blood Moon form. Hisuian form typically hitting with the physical attacks rather than special attacks because it also gets a guts boost from the Flame Orb burning it. But we see that Yoav has decided to keep both of his Pokemon in order to just hope that Joji is able to take a knockout so that he gets a safer switch into whatever he has in the back.
Yeah, exactly. I think Yoav, he was done with that Rillaboom, willing for it to be taken out, gets the Grassy Glide off, gets rid of that focus sash on the Killer Watchel, and then also now that it has been taken out, Yoav is able to bring a Pokemon in for free.
Yes, exactly. And it does seem to be that he's going for that Golden Go right now, wanting to get off probably some Make It Rains of his own. This Hisuian Ursaluna does threaten the Golden Go quite severely with a headlong rush. Thankfully, the grassy terrain being set up means that the Earthquakes are doing half the damage that it normally would do. It's still a very strong attack coming on super effective to a Golden Go, but it does mean that the Ursaluna Blood Moon and the Golden Go probably not going to be hit at the same time by this other Ursaluna Hisuian form.
No, yeah, Joji's absolutely going to be having to pick his target here, try to decide what he wants to do. He does have access to the Tailwind on that Killer Watchel, and depending on how that Ursaluna is trained, it could end up being very relevant. It could end up outspeeding that Golden Go and swinging in for a massive damage. But Yoav, copying what Joji has done, going for the defensive terrestrialization on his Golden Go, really trying to keep it around while he goes for something like a Make It Rain or perhaps his own Nasty Plot to try to get it set up and going. There is the Tailwind from the Killer Watchel, so we will see if that ends up making a difference for the speed stats here. And it is the Ursaluna on Joji's side of the field is going to come out with a Facade. It is going to pick up the knockout on Yoav's Ursaluna. So despite the grassy terrains and the leftovers recovery to try to bolster that Ursaluna back to health, it's not going to be enough. Shadow Ball coming out into the Killer Watchel. That is going to pick up the knockout from that Golden Go. Golden Go having that quite a high special attack stat. Killer Watchel being relatively frail in the bulky side of things, that is going to be enough for that Shadow Ball, even on the neutral hit, is going to pick up the knockout.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing that both players are down to their final two Pokemon. So we're not going to be seeing any switching going on for the rest of this game.
No, exactly. So we'll see what Yoav does have in the back. It is the Incineroar. A little unfortunate that it is weak to the ground typing on the Ursaluna, but it's also a positive that it is reducing the attack stat of that Ursaluna. Ursaluna, obviously, its whole thing is that it swings off with massive, massive physical attacks, and that Intimidate is going to reduce that slightly and might allow Yoav's Golden Go to be able to tough out a Facade where previously it would have been taken out.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also gets to have that fake out pressure where Golden Go isn't going to have to take that Facade for this one turn. And Golden Go also, its good as gold ability, meaning that it cannot be spored by Amoonguss. Means that Golden Go is very free to get its Nasty Plot off here and is really able to threaten both of these Pokemon with that Make It Rain.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, the Golden Go's ability, good as gold, just keeping it safe from that sport really means that so long as you know that you are faking out into the Ursaluna spot, the Golden Go can really just Nasty Plot with impunity, and that's exactly what it's done there. Obviously, that Ursaluna still is threatening a lot of damage with that Facade or a Headlong Rush into the Golden Go, as it is outspeeding with that Tailwind. But if the Golden Go is able to move, that Make It Rain is quite possibly threatening a double knockout on Joji's side of the field. So it'll be interesting to see if Joji's able to leverage his last couple of turns of Tailwind in time to be able to deal with Yoav's side of the board.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're waiting. We see that Yoav does not protect the Golden Go, but it does not matter. He's able to hold on, take the knockout on the Ursaluna with that Make It Rain. It is Amoonguss versus the world here.
I don't know if Amoonguss is going to be enough. That Golden Go is on low health and the Incineroar is asleep. Golden Go also losing some of its hit points with that Life Orb, so possibly in range of the Amoonguss hitting it with a Pollen Puff, which is what has been clicked there. But unfortunately, that was clicked into where the Ursaluna was. Joji hoping to restore some of its health, but unfortunately, too late. That Ursaluna is already gone. And we see as well the Intimidate from the Incineroar making a massive difference there, allowing Golden Go to have enough hit points to hit back, and that is going to be game one going to Yoav.
And absolutely, that Intimidate paying its dividends, showing why Incineroar is such a terrific Pokemon. That Intimidate, that Fake Out, that Incineroar was so well played that game one. It's going to be very, very tough for Joji to be able to adapt and be able to take this next game off Yoav and hopefully take it to a game 3 for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, that was a very close game, and I think Joji, one of the best aspects of a team like the one that he is running is there's so many options. You've got access to that Tailwind option. You've also got access to that Trick Room option. You know, should he choose to lead with something like the Porygon 2, set up a Trick Room rather than go for a Tailwind, then potentially that Ursaluna, rather than having the speed under the Tailwind, could actually be underspeeding a lot of things in the Trick Room to be going first. It's also got the option under the Trick Room to be shooting out some very fast Spores with that Amoonguss to kind of be causing a bit of havoc to Yoav's side of the field. So there's definitely options, I think, for Joji. It'll be interesting to see whether or not he adjusts repositions or decides to try to say the same thing with a slightly different approach. I guess we'll have to see what he's looking for here.
I do think that we are going to be seeing a very similar game plan coming from Joji, actually. I think that he's had a terrific idea of the Pokemon that he's brought and the way that he's played them. Just maybe a few turns didn't exactly go his way. Maybe preserving something in the back to be able to switch Ursaluna into, so that way it's able to cop that Intimidate, but switch out safely, come back in, and be able to actually threaten at full power, guts boosted. But we're getting into game 2 here, and we're seeing something pretty similar. We're seeing the Golden Go and the Kilowattrel from Joji's side, while we're still seeing the exact same lead, the Rillaboom and the Ursaluna Blood Moon coming from Yoav.
Yeah, so Joji adjusting slightly, bringing the Kilowattrel rather than the Amoonguss in this lead. I imagine the idea is that he's going to want to get a Tailwind up so that Golden Go can start swinging first. Or potentially he was trying to anticipate the Incineroar beginning on the field to try to take advantage of that competitive. There's a fake out coming out from Rillaboom into the Kilowattrel. It is going to pop that Focus Sash. It is going to be a critical hit to get that extra little bit of damage. And it is also going to stop the Kilowattrel from moving there.
Yoav instantly throwing off the Make It Rain there, not worrying about a nasty plot, just wanting to get damage off of this Golden Go, whilst the ×2 damage, and thankfully he did, because that would have been so detrimental for Golden Go to just go for a nasty plot there and go down without doing anything whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously in game 1, Joji tried to go for that Terrestrialization to keep it safe from those Earth Powers, go for that nasty plot so that in future turns he could start swinging with those Make It Rains. In this turn, I think what Joji was thinking was, maybe I want to preserve my Terrestrialization. I don't want to burn it on the Golden Go just to keep it around a bit longer. I'm just going to swing while it's around, and then it's going to get taken out by the Earth Power. I can bring something else in. I've still got my Terrestrialization preserved for following turns.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we see the Ursaluna Hisuian form coming in, most likely going to be able to make use of that Tailwind that the Kilowattrel can still provide, whilst its Focus Sash has been used up. It's been negated due to losing a bit of health. The Kilowattrel is still fastest thing on the field, going to be able to set up that Tailwind, going to be able to make this Ursaluna Hisui form, outspeed everything else, and be able to throw out some strong hits.
Yeah, so we are going to see a switch out from Yoav here, a bit of repositioning, bringing in the Incineroar to get that Intimidate out and to set up for another Fake Out. It is going to activate the competitive ability on Kilowattrel, which means Kilowattrel is now at +2 special attack, so it could end up swinging pretty hard. That is the Air Slash doing quite a respectable amount to that Incineroar.
Calling that Intimidate coming in, being like, you know what, no, I just want to get damage off, okay? That's Tailwind ideas that the caster is talking about. What do we need that for? We're faster than everything anyway.
There is the Blood Moon directly into the Kilowattrel. The Kilowattrel is not going to be around for very long to take advantage of that competitive boost. Did get quite a lot of damage off into that Incineroar, but unfortunately, that Blood Moon is going to take it out. And because of that Intimidate, once again, Yoav's Intimidate coming in clutch, preventing that Ursaluna on Joji's side of the field from picking up the knockout on that Ursaluna.
Unfortunately, Joji is also down to his last 2 Pokemon, so that Intimidate is there for the rest of the game. Whether or not he's able to pull this out, it is going to still be at -1 attack, at the very least, for the remainder of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that Incineroar, I think, just really costing Joji the game here. That Ursaluna not being able to do quite enough with that -1 attack is just really unfortunate to see. Joji bringing in his own Incineroar. Unfortunately, the Intimidate on Yoav's Incineroar isn't really going to matter that much because obviously the Ursaluna Blood Moon is a special attacker rather than a physical attacker. So it's not at all bothered by the -1 attack. It's just going to keep swinging with those Blood Moons, with those Earth Powers.
Yeah, absolutely. And Yoav also has the Pokemon that he has in the back in order to switch out to negate that Intimidate effect, which we're seeing right now with the Rillaboom coming in. This resets his Fake Out threat for the next turn, is able to also, once the Rillaboom switches back out, it's going to have Incineroar being able to Fake Out once again, really playing for the end game. And that headlong
that
rush,
was a critical hit.
A critical hit
into that resisted hit. That with that -1, with that resisted hit, I think that Rillaboom was pretty safe, except for that critical hit. Breaking through that -1 attack, and maybe putting Joji in a bit more of a comfortable position than he might have been at the start of the turn. So quite a massive critical hit there.
Absolutely, and if Ursaluna Hisui is able to keep those critical hits up, this Incineroar coming back in isn't really going to prove much of a threat.
No, exactly. I think Joji figured out what the win condition is against that Intimidate cycle. So if I critical hit, I can just ignore the attack drops, and it doesn't matter. So, if he's able to keep that up, absolutely, we could definitely see this game go in his favor.
Exactly it, and we see that Incineroar coming back in, desperately trying to not get crit once again.
Absolutely. Well, I guess we'll have to see what happens there. Yoa, having used Protect on the Ursaluna, is probably coming out swinging with it this turn. Also, the Incineroar having just hit the board, it does have a fresh access to the Fake Out, so we'll see if he tries to do that. There is a Protect coming out from Joji's Ursaluna, perhaps trying to keep it safe from that Fake Out. If so, an excellent call, because that's exactly where that Fake Out was headed.
Yeah, brilliant. So the Ursaluna Blood Moon is still able to get an Earth Power off into Incineroar, but it's not being enough. Incineroar doesn't have the Assault Vest. I'm pretty sure it does, because it took absolutely nothing from that Earth Power from that Blood Moon Ursaluna. Unfortunately, with that Intimidate, not able to secure the KO.
No, once again, Yoav's Ursaluna Blood Moon is able to stick around. Leftovers, grassy terrain, paying dividends. That bulk that it has, paying dividends. And also just, the continued Intimidate on Joji's side of the field means that he's really just not able to get that damage output from the Ursaluna or the Incineroar here. And so Ursaluna Blood Moon still comfortably sticking around, getting that restoration from the ability, from the terrain. And it's in a pretty comfortable position to keep swinging. Obviously, Joji's Incineroar lived that Earth Power fairly comfortably, but it's not really going to be able to tough out a second one before it's being taken out.
Yeah, absolutely. This is absolute nail-biter of a set. Joji's tournament turn, basically. Whether or not he can secure this turn and stick around for another one, it's dependent on whether or not he breaks into the top 4 here.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Everything to play for here. So we'll have to see what the players are looking at. There is a Terrestrialization coming out on what appears to be... they're both Incineroar. I can't tell whose it is at this stage.
Yoav's Incineroar.
Yoav's Incineroar is going for the water Terrestrialization. Just probably try to keep it safe from the ground-type moves coming out from that Ursaluna. Ursaluna trying to go for the double protect, which is unfortunately going to fail there. Blood Moon coming out from Yoav's Ursaluna is not going to pick up the knockout. Once again, Assault Vest on the Incineroar coming in clutch. Flare Blitz on the return. He's going to pick up the knockout. That Ursaluna is finally getting knocked out, but that recoil from the Flare Blitz means that Joji's Incineroar is also going to faint here.
Yeah, so we've got Ursaluna versus the world here, but I'm pretty sure this means that the grassy terrain is about to go down the next turn, and if Ursaluna is able to get critical hit Earthquakes off here...
Yeah, look, the critical hit's quite necessary here. Also, it's likely not in a position where it's going to be moving first. Yoav does have a Pokemon in the back, so playing quite a fair bit from behind here, Joji, but on the off chance that Ursaluna is able to move, maybe get a double critical hit, could still be in it.
This is Pokemon. This is Pokemon after all. But unfortunately, Joji is going to concede. Joji extending that hand to Yoav. Congratulations to Yoav. You have broken into top 4. You had the goal of making it a top 8, and now you're going to go all the way, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure he must be stoked with this, not just in top 8 as he had originally hoped for, now in top 4. And that in itself is a massive achievement of which he should be proud. And the other players who are also making it into top 4 should all be massively proud of how they've been able to get through that far. But they're still hungry. They still want to go all the way.
All the players that have made it into top cut should be absolutely proud. This is absolutely the amount of talent that we've seen at this regional. We've only showcased a few games. We've only showcased a few players. The amount of talent that is still out there that we have not seen is absolutely incredible. These players that have been able to get these results that they have should absolutely be patting themselves on the back. Just because they have lost their last game that they played does not mean that they are not high-level, world's-level competitors.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing. This is like, how does a fantastic player lose? They lose to another fantastic player. And that's what we're seeing here. Basically everything in this entire day, from when Phase 2 started onwards all the way to now when we're getting through to the top 4 and then that final match, every single player that we have had here today, they're all fantastic. So any player that lost today should not at all feel bad about themselves, because the people that they are losing to are just the top-tier players that we have to offer.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to take a quick break there. When we come back, we will be bringing you our top 4 round, and then stay tuned, because after that, we will be coming to you with our finals match of the day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. What an exciting top 8 game we just saw there. But of course, we're going to jump straight into the action. We've got a very exciting top 4 game to deliver to you guys today. We've actually got Yuya Tada versus Nicholas Khan from earlier. We haven't had the chance to feature Yuya Tada today, but in fact, he's had a very, very strong run today. I believe he was at the end of round 7, he was the other remaining undefeated player. So he's had a very, very strong start, and he's still going. There's only 4 players left.
Yeah, absolutely. And Nicholas Khan, we saw him in round 2. Nicholas Khan has actually won this tournament before, back in 2024, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
2024.
Yeah, that's the one.
That was the one.
Yeah.
I remember well. Nicholas Khan, absolute high caliber player, has been around for such a long time. Actually won Worlds in the juniors division back in 2017 as well. So Nicholas Khan, absolutely phenomenal player.
Yeah, of course. Nicholas Khan looking to, run it back, see if he can do it again. If you can do it once, why not do it again? And we're going to jump into the teams, actually. Yuya Tata's got some interesting choices. He's running the Pelipper Basculation, so that rain mode that we're so familiar with, supported by the Archaludon, the Ursaluna, the Farigiraf, and the Sinistra. So the first 4 Pokemon, very common to see. Then the next 2, kind of interesting sort of Trick Room options, maybe?
Yeah, the Sinistra is actually something that we've seen before, like with its hospitality. When it switches in, it's able to replenish the health of whichever ally is on its field with it. So it's such an interesting Pokemon in that regard. Being paired up with something like Basculegion, those wave crashes that it is throwing out, they're taking so much recoil. It's able to alleviate a lot of that stress that's putting on Basculegion there.
Yeah, I think Basculegion is one of the big storylines we've seen during this tournament. I remember it was Lewis Tan's game, actually. He just Terra Water wave crashed. The sun was up, he didn't mind. Resisted hit into the jump off, he didn't mind. So even if the multipliers aren't all stacked in its favor, it is capable of doing some absolutely devastating damage. And I do want to highlight that Farigiraf as well. It's quite interesting with the Mental Herb. So it looks like a kind of more reliable way to set Trick Room to lean into maybe that Ursaluna and the Archaludon. Maybe it might be a bit slower for Trick Room. I'm not sure. But we might move over to Nicholas Khan's team. So again, we saw it earlier, but much earlier.
Yeah, it was about round 2 that we saw it. Nicholas Khan running the Mousehold, the Annihilate, 2 Pokemon that synergize so well together. Normally that when you see the Mousehold, you normally see Annihilate right beside him. The ability Friend Guard, reducing the damage that Annihilate's taking, really being able to stack up that damage against the Rage Fist. We've got Dragonite, Rillaboom, Golden Go, and Blood Moon Ursaluna. Pokemon that we have seen quite a fair bit, the Rillaboom, the Golden Go, and the Blood Moon Ursaluna, really putting in a lot of work for a lot of different players.
Yeah, a lot of these Pokemon, they're here to stay in Regulation H. Very, very common choices for a lot of the players, and we can see why. They're just so powerful and so capable of doing so much damage. I know the Dragonite in particular, with that loaded dice, I remember at the start of the format, people were a little bit slower to use the loaded dice, but of course the loaded dice guarantees that you get 4 or 5 hits on the scale shot, and then that scale shot is capable of doing a lot of damage, and because of the multi-hit, it can knock out a Pokemon despite it having Sturdy or a Focus Sash, but also the speed boost that it offers can be very vital for future turns in the game.
Yeah, Dragonite also not being selfish, only boosting its own speed. It has access to that Tailwind to be able to support the entire team if the situation calls for it. Dragonite is also a very interesting Pokemon. It has access to the ability Inner Focus. Inner Focus prevents it, number 1, from being intimidated, number 2, being flinched. It has access to that ability, which is such a strong ability, but it also has one that I believe Dragonite is the only Pokemon to have, or the Dragonite line are the only Pokemon to have in multi-scale, whereas if that Pokemon is at full hit points, the damage that it takes is significantly reduced.
Yeah, I believe the only other Pokemon to have that ability is Lugia, of course, but definitely not legal in this format. We don't even have legendaries, especially not restricted Pokemon, but that multi-scale proves to just be really beneficial when you want to guarantee a Tailwind. So it looks like we have the leads here today. We've got the Farigiraf straight away next to the Ursaluna and the Mousehold and the Dragonite.
Yes, this Mousehold is going to prove to be such a strong Pokemon here into such a lead matchup as the Farigiraf and the Blood Moon Ursaluna. The Farigiraf, Blood Moon Ursaluna, we're kind of expecting to see a Trick Room instantly going out, where the Mousehold able to threaten a Super Fang, able to threaten a Population Bomb if it's so wished. This one obviously does not have it, but able to threaten that Super Fang in order to cut down the health points of that Farigiraf down to 50%, and being able to swing into it with that Dragonite.
So we've got the Protect coming out from the Ursaluna. We'll see if it works for Nicholas here. And it looks like a Super Fang going into the Protect. So it's an excellent Protect there from Yuya. And we'll have to see if the Scale Shot as well. So it looks like Nicholas was going for the Super Fang, then the Scale Shot to double up the Pokemon. The what do you call it? The Mouse Hold is setting up the knockout, and then the Dragonite is following through. But of course, there was a Protect in that slot, so it wasn't to be, and the Trick Room is set up relatively free for Yuya.
Yeah, such an offensive play coming out from Nicholas Khan here, swinging into that Ursaluna, which does have such late game potential, expecting Yuya to not want to conserve it, to want to play that riskily with it. Such an offensive play from Nick Khan. Didn't pay off, but I can see where the mind was at with it.
Yeah, and we've got the terrestrialization, the offensive terrestrialization into the normal type on the Blood Moon Ursaluna, as the Mouse Hold is opting to protect in front of this offense. And we're going to have to see the Hyper Voice coming through. It's going to be big damage, obviously not into the Mouse Hold, but into the Dragonite, breaking the multi-scale, reducing the damage, but it's still nothing to slouch at. It's a reasonable amount of damage with the Life Orb.
When you consider that is boosted by multi-scale, protected by multi-scale and Friend Guard together, that small chunk of damage, that is actually a huge amount being done to Dragonite right now.
Yeah, and the Dazzling Gleam also not doing as much damage as I was expecting, and the Scale Shot coming out. Will we see 4 hits? Will we see 5 hits into this Ursaluna Blood Moon? It looks like it's still going. It's hitting a lot of times. That's the 5 hits, doing a lot of damage into that Ursaluna. So not actually as much damage as maybe Yuya was trying to get in this first turn of Trick Room. That Friend Guard, as you called out, and then of course that multi-scale reducing the damage so well.
Yeah, but this is not a great position for Nick Khan as well. While he has gotten a lot of damage off on that Ursaluna, without any real way for that Ursaluna to be able to recover that HP, we've seen it paired a lot with that grassy terrain and leftovers this tournament. However, Nicholas Khan has just dropped the defense of his Dragonite, and now he's switching out the Mouse Hold, getting rid of that Friend Guard. This Dragonite is incredibly frail. It took that Life Orb Terra Normal Hyper Voice so well, but this one is going to pick up the knockout.
Yeah, so that's the real damage of the Life Orb Terra Normal Hyper Voice. Without those modifiers reducing it, you can see that it is enough to take the knockout on that Dragonite, not protect it anymore. And the Dazzling Gleam follow-up, Golden Go taking 2 resisted hits. That's half of its hit points already removed here.
That's half of his hit point already removed. And one of those hits was a normal type hit into a ghost type.
Yeah.
That is Mind's Eye at work right there.
Yes. For those who don't know, Mind's Eye allows Ursaluna to hit the ghost types with its normal moves, proving just that normal coverage is so good. Only resisted by Steel and Rock, I believe.
Yeah, 2 resistances and a lot that is hit for neutral damage.
Yeah, very reliable offensive option with no immunities here.
And the ground type as well from Ursaluna Blood Moon. The ground type attacking bonus that it gets from using those ground type moves makes those rock and steel types not an effective check for it. But we're seeing a helping hand come out from the Farigiraf, going right for that Ursaluna. We're going to see, I believe, a Hyper Voice coming off right now. Whilst the Friend Guard from the Mouse Hold is protecting it, that is severely negated by the helping hand there. And it nearly picks up the KO on that Golden Go. Golden Go holding on with just 7 hit points. Mouse Hold holding on with its Focus Sash.
Yeah, that Mouse Hold protecting that Golden Go with that crucial Friend Guard as we get a Make It Rain, finishing off that huge offensive threat of the Ursaluna and doing quite respectable damage into this Farigiraf as we see the Ursaluna knocked out as these Trick Room turns are ticking down. We'll have to see what Yuya's got in the back to respond to this.
Golden Go going down to its own Life Orb, but it has done such a great job in order to secure this game back in Nick Khan's favor. Now Nick Khan is able to bring in his own Blood Moon Ursaluna. There is no answer for that sitting on Yuya's side right now. This Blood Moon Ursaluna potentially able to throw out Hyper Voices of its own, or it could just throw out Blood Moons.
Yeah, of course. So we traded an Ursaluna. One side lost an Ursaluna, the other side gains an Ursaluna, and it's still a very, very potent threat in these Trick Room positions. The final turn of Trick Room, we're going to have to see how this folds out, as the following turn, Mouse Hold is going to be quite quick in comparison.
Yes, but right now, Mouse Hold is very, very slow, and it is very, very vulnerable.
Exactly.
Sitting at that one hit point, a Stiff Breeze could come by and just take it out of the game altogether. Thankfully, there are no Tyranitards in the back, so that Stiff Breeze cannot come through this game.
It looks like both Ursalunas opting to terrestrialize this game, but a very different and actually somewhat unusual type of the Dragon, hoping to maybe resist some attacks when he was building the team. But we've got the Dragon type Ursaluna as the Mouse Hold goes for a Protect, and the Psychic into the Ursaluna. The Assault Vest just proving that it can take those hits pretty well, and the Matcha Gotcha would have been super effective if not for the Terrestrialization.
Now, not very effective.
Exactly, the Dragon typing absolutely doing some work here as the Sinistcha goes for quite a low damage move, and the Hyper Voice in return, sending it straight back. Reasonable damage into these two typically supporting Pokemon.
Yes, and we've seen the Twisted Dimensions go down this turn. So now Mousehold is the fastest thing on the field. It is able to go for those really strong supportive moves that it has available to it. And we're able to see whether or not Nick Khan is able to pull back this game in his favor.
Yeah, so the Mousehold going for the double protect.
Double protect. Okay, I believe the Twisted Dimensions did not go down, and it goes down at the end of this turn.
I believe what could have happened there is the Rage Powder threat from the Sinistcha. So the Super Fang from Mousehold is not looking too good in front of this Sinistcha, and the only other option is Beat Up, which typically you're not actually meant to attack the opposing Pokemon with Beat Up, especially when you've really got a few Pokemon remaining. So we've got the Matcha Gotcha coming out here, just doing a little bit more damage into Ursaluna, but that Dragon typing and that Assault Vest is just really not doing as much damage as Yu-Gi-Oh would be hoping.
Yes, and the secondary effects of that Matcha Gotcha, fortunately, not coming into play here. But we see now the Archaludon coming out for Yuya. This Pokemon doesn't have the range to support it in order to throw off those really powerful electro shots, but that doesn't seem to be mattering too much. Number one, I don't think that he is carrying it given that he doesn't have rain on his side. But number two, more importantly, I don't think that he wants to be throwing out those electro shots into a Dragon type.
Yeah, but he does have the Draco Meteor option, I believe. So the Dragon typing could cause some issues as the beat up is coming into the Sinistcha. The Mousehold doing all that it can really in this match in front of that Ghost typing on the Sinistcha. And we've got the Snarl coming out, finishing off the Mousehold and getting a special attack drop on the Ursaluna.
Yeah, Yuya opting to play a very slow end game here, just wanting to secure a victory. The Rage Powder redirecting this Blood Moon into the Sinistcha does not pick up the KO. Now the knockout, sorry. And now the Archaludon is sitting there at full health, still sitting right beside the Sinistcha, whilst this Dragon-type Ursaluna has to take a Draco Meteor, doesn't take it well, and that is game one in Yuya's favor.
Yeah, of course. So the Dragon typing was very, very strong on Ursaluna at the start, but as soon as the Archaludon came in, it was punishing that choice for the defensive Terrestrialization, of course, Dragon types being weak to other Dragon types. We have to see how Nicholas Khan chooses to adapt in this game. It's very interesting from Yuya there, choosing to have kind of the rain mode in the back, except he left 2 out of 3 pieces of the rain mode behind. He only brought the Archaludon with, I guess he can click Electro Shot, but I don't think you'd want to without the rain because it is a 2-turn move without the rain.
Yeah, and going into a not very effective Pokemon as well. Obviously not the smartest of plays that we could be going for. That Draco Meteor clinching the game for him, might as well go for that. But it is interesting that we got to see both the Bane and the Boon that is the defensive Terror typing, that we got to see how little that Ursaluna Blood Moon ended up taking from that Machigacha, which could have been super effective had it not gone for that Dragon-type Terrestrialization. But then we also see that that Dragon-type Terrestrialization ended up being the Achilles heel that ended up putting Nicholas Khan down a single game this round due to that Draco Meteor being super effective against it.
Yeah, exactly. But at the time that he clicked the Terrestrialization, I believe he was not aware of the final Pokemon in the back. So the Dragon typing, it's a bit of a gamble on there could be that Archaludon in the back, or maybe I can just put enough offense down. Because I know if it was, for example, the Bascu Legion, you're resisting the water moves, but also preserving that Mousehold, it would not be able to go for the Ghost type moves.
Yeah, resisting the water moves, resisting the grass moves, resisting those electric moves. You're kind of forcing the kind of moves that Yuya would have to go to. But anyway, getting into game 2, we're seeing the Golden Go Dragonite up against, and I did not catch the lead on either side.
I know it was a deviation here because I was talking about the rain, and we've seen a new piece of the rain. In fact, we are seeing the rain falling right now with the Pelipper and the Archaludon lead, whereas it's the same lead from Nicholas Khan, I believe. So we'll have to see what Yuya does here as the winner of game 1 choosing to adapt. And we've got the Electro Shot coming out straight away, getting that special attack boost and firing off a strong electric type move. We'll have to see into which slot this one is going into. It looks like it is finding its mark on the Dragonite, breaking the multi-scale, which will be very valuable for later in the game. And the Shadow Ball is coming out into that Pelipper, doing very, very strong damage. And the special defense drop, with such low health, I'm not sure if that's going to come into play.
Not quite taking it down to its focus sash. However, Dragonite able to secure the knockout, being able to boost its speed, dropping its defense in the process. But honestly, Dragonite doesn't mind that too much. So long as Dragonite is the fastest thing on the field, it is so strong that it does not matter how frail it becomes, because it doesn't really come into play. It doesn't matter how frail you are if you're not going to get hit.
Yeah, exactly. Some pretty strong offensive pressure from the Dragonite here, but the Basculegion, another adaptation. It looks like Yuya is going all in on the rain mode here. And because of that Swift Swim here, we're going to have to see that speed interaction. Of course, Swift Swim doubling the speed of the Basculegion, but Dragonite getting one stage of increased speed. So it's most likely going to be the Basculegion moving first in this turn.
Yeah, exactly. The Basculegion in the back really were potentially going to be seeing something that we saw earlier on in the day of Basculegion just clicking Wave Crash and just choosing its targets and saying, okay, you go back into your Pokeball, you go back into your Pokeball.
Yeah, we'll have to see what Yuya does with this immense offensive pressure that he's displaying on the board right now. Mousehold switching in, a good defensive switch, offering the Friend Guard as the Last Respects takes the knockout on the Dragonite. That defense drop from the Scale Shot proving crucial in its survivability for this turn.
Absolutely. Mousehold trying to help Dragonite get by with a little help from his friends. Unfortunately, the Friend Guard not being enough in order to secure Dragonite. Staying active for that one turn. But unfortunately, Dragonite goes down. But Basculegion is choice banded. It is locked into Last Respects. Basculegion cannot hit either of these Pokemon right now.
Yeah, if Basculegion chooses to stay in here, it will be doing no damage and probably taking, I mean, Ursaluna is capable of a lot of damage in return. So that knockout did not come for free, as Yuya's kind of positioning is a little bit off this turn, but keep in mind the special attack boost from the Electro Shot, this Archaladon, can still put out some good damage.
Absolutely no slouch from the Archaladon here, but Basculegion switching out, potentially just letting the Sinistra come in and take the hit for free. Sinistra coming in where there's no damage against the Archaladon there, not being able to make use of that hospitality.
So we've got the Terrestrialization coming in from the Archaladon. It looks like it's threatened by the Earth Power from the Ursaluna, not wanting to take it, saying, I'll be a Grass type now. So hoping to resist it and put some good damage in this turn. As the Super Fang comes out into the Archaladon, doing half of its health as damage, offering the stamina boost that's not going to be too valuable just yet in the game. You see a second Electro Shot, I presume, coming into the Pokemon that is not a ground type in the Mousehold here. And the Snarl in the previous turn, breaking the Focus Sash, could prove crucial in this turn in removing that Mousehold, as we see it get the knockout, receiving that Electro Shot.
Yeah, absolutely. And it all comes down to what Nicholas Khan has chosen to do with his Ursaluna Blood Moon. Unfortunately, that Earth Power coming out, had the Archaladon stayed a Steel type, would have been fantastic. But I'm guessing that Nicholas Khan is a little upset that he did not click that Blood Moon, that he did not look at that Archaladon and think, no, you're going to be a Grass type by the end of this turn. By the time that this attack comes out, I am going to take you out right now. You're going back to your trainer, and we're going to see the Basculegion come back in.
Yeah, very difficult call to make, of course, because Blood Moon into the Steel type would be resisted, but then Earth Power into the Grass type would be resisted. So you have to kind of see what he's going to go for here. So we see the Golden Go opt to protect this turn, and we'll have to see we've got a Snarl coming out in front of two special attackers, but crucially, I think this is going to allow the Ursaluna to hang on through this turn, not taking too much damage despite the two special attack boosts from the Electro Shots. And the Hyper Voice, not enough to knock out the Archaladon this turn.
That Snarl paying its dividends right there, and a Life Dew from the Sinistra being able to heal off that Archaladon there. This is looking very rough for Nicholas Khan at the moment. That Archaladon was holding on by a thread and has now been given so much hit points in order to be able to be nice and being seen pretty right now.
Yeah, we'll have to see the interaction between the Golden Go and the Archaladon this turn, because I believe we do not know which one of them has shown itself to be faster, and it could prove crucial in this turn if but the Golden Go going for the double protect here and unfortunately failing, as we've got the Electro Shot coming out from the Archaladon. That is a third special attack boost.
This is a very, very strong bridge right now. Very, very strong flowered bridge right now. Coming out, and a very powerful Electro Shot into the Golden Go does secure the KO. Nicholas Khan holding onto his tournament by a dream right now.
Yeah, this bridge could be the bridge that Yuya needs to cross to find his way in the finals for this match, as the Blood Moon comes out, and it looks like the bridge is closed.
Yes, unfortunately, no access here, but this does mean that Basculegion does get to come in right now, even without the rain. Ursuluna Blood Moon not looking to outspeed that Basculegion anytime soon, and that Machigacha is such a strong hit.
Yeah, super effective this game, as it was not very effective before with the Dragon typing. We can see what difference it made, that typing. And as you called out, the Basculegion coming in, and I think it's just too much for this Ursaluna to handle, as Yuya Tada is locking in potentially his last move for this top 4, locking his ticket into the finals.
It seems that Yuya Tada is going to be on one side of the finals of this tournament, and Nicholas Khan sees that and concedes. Nicholas Khan, absolutely brilliant tournament from your end. Absolutely brilliant play.
Yeah, of course. Congratulations to both players. Top 4. Only 4 players can achieve top 4 in a tournament. Nicholas Khan has what it takes to win the tournament. We've seen it before, but unfortunately, Yuya Tada proving too much at the end of this game, using that trusty Basculegion, a really good adaptation in the second game, because he brought all 6 Pokemon to both games.
He absolutely did. It was quite the sight to behold.
Yeah, absolutely. Opting to lean into that rain mode over that Trick Room mode, because previously we saw the Frigoraph and we set the Trick Room, and it was a little bit clunky, I think, because once the Ursaluna went down, the speed control was not firmly in his favor, but the rain was just so offensive, and if it catches you off guard, you don't really have much time to adjust and change your strategy on the fly with that Basculegion Choice Band in rain. Absolutely powerful damage.
Yeah, and absolutely. But Nick Khan did do such a good job of being able to maintain himself in that game. It wasn't until towards the end that it was looking a little bit dire for him. He was keeping in control that entire time. It just came down to a few reads that didn't go his way, but otherwise played fantastically. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Great job. Great job to absolutely both of them.
Yeah, because that first game, the Dragon typing was quite good on the terrestrialization, but it could have been the crucial thing you needed to win the game, if not for that Archaludon with the Draco Meteor in the back. But even the Draco Meteor could have missed. That's another thing. Like, the games were very, very close, and it is a very, very good accomplishment to make top 4 of that tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. Both these players absolutely fantastically, but Yuya is in the finals. This is such an exciting tournament for him. He's nearly there. He's this far from claiming it all.
Yes, only one more match for Yuya, and he could be going home with that championship title. And we do not know who his opponent is going to be yet. I know we saw Yoav win his top 8 match, and it eludes me who he's versing in the finals. But
yeah, it is escaping me as well. Unfortunately, don't have that name off the top of my head, but whoever he ends up playing, it's just going to be such an absolute blast to watch. I cannot wait.
Yeah, I am so impressed by the level of play in this tournament. We've really brought a lot of the strongest players from around Australia and clearly from around Japan as well. They're very interested in coming to Brisbane to show us what they've got. So we can see that the other top 4 match is currently underway between Kaito Ari, also from Japan, and Yoav Ruven, who we just saw, the final hope for Australia to win this regional.
Yeah, it just goes to show just like how much talent these tournaments attract. That we've got people not just from within Brisbane itself, but from all around Australia coming in, as well as international players coming in, wanting to compete, wanting to test their mettle against the best of the best that Pokemon has to offer. So these tournaments are absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. No matter who wins that remaining top 4 match, I can already tell the finals is going to be spectacular, and it's something that you as viewers.
Welcome back, trainers. We are here live at the Brisbane Regional Championships 2026. We are about to bring you the final match of the tournament to see who we will be crowning the Brisbane Regional Champion. I'm here with Paul. Paul, are you as excited as I am?
I am excited indeed, Mark. We're going to have 2 of our best players at this event this weekend going in, clashing it. It's 2 players not from our home country. They are 2 Japanese players duking it out for that World's Invite. Both of them, a lot to play for here.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got Kaito Ari and we've got Yuya Tada. Both of them come over from Japan, trying to, win this championship, get that prize money, most importantly, get that invite to the World Championship so they can have that locked and be ready to attend the World Championships 2026. So one of these 2 players is guaranteed to be invited to the World Championships by the end of today.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see. It's going to be an absolute pleasure to cast as well. Both of these trainers here today have fought through that Phase 1, fought through that Phase 2, and have fought their way through Top Cut. So There is one last game, and that's all they need.
Yeah, it's going to be one of the hardest games to play, obviously, but they're both more than up for the task. They've been able to make it through. I think we started this tournament with 210 Masters players in VGC, and that's all just come down to these two who have managed to fight all their way through to get to the very end. So really, anyone's game, it could go either way. They're both just so talented that it's really just going to come down to who's going to be able to play better in this final match.
Yeah, it's going to be an absolute delight to call. But I do believe they're still taking a little bit of time to run through and get set up down on the floor. So we're going to have a quick cut into a small little conversation that we've going to spring up. We have heard over the weekend that the new regulation is going to be coming out for official in-person tournaments, Mark.
Yes, I am almost as excited about this as I am for this final match. And that is because we are going to Regulation F, which is my favorite regulation that we've had so far in Scarlet and Violet. So I am so pumped to be able to get back into that and to use my favorites. I don't know about you, but I'm super keen to go back to using Chi-Yu. I want to use Iron Bundle, and my personal favorite to use in Regulation F was Okie Dokie.
Some absolutely beautiful mons. I personally am a big fan of Ogerpon, specifically the Wellspring form. It's done quite well over that period. But outside of that, there's a lot of powerful Pokemon coming back. That Shen Power's coming back. The Urshifus are coming back. Tornadus is coming back. One of those pranks to Tailwind setters to allow to get Tailwind and speed advantage basically on a whim. But it looks like we do have these here now. So enough of the Regulation F talk for the time being. We're going to run over these teams. We're going to start with Kodo Ari's team here. It's got the Kilowattrel, the Ursaluna, Amoonguss, Porygon 2, Goldango, and Incineroar.
Yes, anyone who's been tuning in over the course of this tournament knows just how much I love this team. I love seeing it, and I'm so glad to see it in the finals. We could end up having a repeat of what we had the last time we had a Regulation H tournament here in Australia. This was in Perth last year, or last season at least, that Regulation H tournament. We actually had this exact team with 6 Pokemon come in second place. Dimitri Koziaris came in as a finalist of that tournament. So it's very possible we see exactly the same thing happen with this one. Although personally, I would love to see Kilowattrel go all the way and become a regional champion. So I'm super stoked about this one here.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting there. And going up, the wall to break down is the wall of Yuyatata. It's got that Pelipper, the Basculegion, the Archaludon, the Blood Moon Ursaluna, the Farigiraf, and the Sinistcha. So it's looking like there's a mix of that rain alongside some Trick Room variation as well. The Trick Room generally likes to be ran with sun, if there's a weather with it, but this one is rain, so there's a little bit of a different takey from Use and that they've been able to have great success with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that rain team, very, very strong all across Regulation H. Many strong players brought, I believe we saw a very similar team brought by Kieran Singh in the very first round of this tournament. We've seen other teams like this as well throughout the tournament. 2 very strong teams. We've seen them plenty across the tournament. So we know each of these teams is incredibly reliable. We know they're each piloted by a very reliable player. Really anyone's game here.
Yeah, it's going to be an absolute delight to watch. We have seen the Yuyatata. They were on stream earlier in this top 4. So going over that, we were able to see some of just the power that it was able to bring, especially alongside that Life Orb Blood Moon from Ursaluna with the Terrestrialization normal type. Does like to deliver big damage as well, especially with the Sinistcha being able to come in looking to offset that Life Orb damage as well. We've seen that from time to time. There's also the Archaludon. So a lot of things synergize well with that Sinistcha on the rain side of things.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone who's played a fair amount of Regulation H is fully aware that Archaludon can be very difficult to take out. But we are actually going to our game 1 now. We've got that Basculegion and the Pelipper on Yuya's side of the field, with Kaito sending out that Porygon 2 and that Incineroar.
Now, we have seen before how absolutely devastating Basculegion can be, firing off those rain-boosted choice banded wave crashes. This one also has the water terrestrialization option at its disposal as well. However, this one is intimidated thanks to Incineroar's Intimidate, so Porygon 2 might be able to come out and look at maybe potentially getting up a possible Trick Room here on the side of Kaito. We do need to see if the Incineroar looks to stay in and look to put some fake out pressure on the Pelipper, or if it does look to switch out to try and preserve its HP here. Yuya can threaten a lot of water-type offense here between both the Pelipper and the Archaludon. We are going to see some Turn 1 Terastallizations here, Mark.
Yeah, we absolutely are. So that Terastallization is going out into that Basculegion. It is going to be the water type, which just increases the power of the already incredibly powerful rain-boosted Wave Crash. So we'll see if that is targeted into a certain slot. Incineroar going for a fake out into that Pelipper rather than into the Basculegion. And there's a Basculegion going for what would appear to be, I believe that's a Wave Crash into the Porygon 2. It's not going to pick up the knockout, unfortunately. Despite all those multipliers, all those damage boosts from the Terra, from the weather, Porygon 2, so tanky, it is able to tank that one, and it is now going to go through and set up that Trick Room.
Yeah, Porygon 2, thanking the stars for the Incineroar there, that Intimidate being able to offset that attack stat. Definitely working some quite big wonders for Porygon to be able to take the hit, be able to get up the Trick Room. Now, once again, back on stream, we've had a lot of Twisted Dimensions here this weekend, but we're going to have them here in the finals as well. We're going to see how well Kaido can take good use of that. The Basculegion is definitely by far the fastest thing on the field with the Swift Swim in the rain. May potentially have to look at being switched out, otherwise it could be taking a lot of damage from both the Porygon 2 and the Incineroar there. As it is Terastallized out of its Ghost type, Porygon can hit that with a Terra Blast. It's just its normal type move, but it's reliable because if the Porygon 2 Terastallizes, it changes the type of Terra Blast as well. But we are seeing the Porygon 2 switch out here right away, Mark.
Yeah, so it looks like Kaido's going to reposition, bring in that Amoonguss to perhaps threaten some spores in that Trick Room. Pelipper as well, also being switched out by Yuya, going for a reposition here. And it looks like he's going to bring in what appears to be the Sinistcha. So Sinistcha, healing back that damage that the Basculegion took from its own Wave Crash. Basculegion, in fact, going to stay in, is going to take that knockoff from the Incineroar. That is going to knock off its Choice Band, reducing the damage it does for the rest of the game. However, Basculegion is going to stay in, go for another swing here, and that is going to be targeted into the Amoonguss slot. Not going to do a whole heap because of that resisted hit.
Yeah, the resisted hit there, and you've also got to look at it's at -1, and with that Choice Band and knockoff, that is still an absolutely phenomenal amount of damage when you consider the Pokemon taking that hit is Amoonguss. Amoonguss known for generations just on being that bulky supportive Pokemon, looking to take multiple hits or two. Just seeing how powerful Pokemon have gotten over time, just seeing the damage that a resisted hit can do to that Amoonguss is absolutely incredible. But we are going to see the Spore come out here, Mark, straight onto the Basculegion.
There it is, the Amoonguss doing what it does best, clicking that Spore into the Basculegion, preventing that Basculegion from moving this turn, potentially future turns. Meanwhile, the Sinistcha there, going for the Life Dew to try to restore some of the hit points on that Basculegion. I think Yuya really recognizing that Basculegion is key there. Knockoff into the Sinistcha is not going to pick up the knockout, even with that super effective hit. Sinistcha is going to be able to tough that one out. And of course, Basculegion is asleep.
Yeah, so Basculegion there, looking to take a sleep turn or two. Knocking off the Citrus Berry here from the Sinistcha. So Sinistcha can only really heal its HP back now from Life Dew, or if it looks to go on the offensive with the Machu Gotcha, it's not going to be healing too much damage when you're going to attacking into an Incineroar and an Amoonguss. One of those Pokemon is Incineroar holding an Assault Vest, so that has boosted special defense in comparison to most of your other Incineroars that you might see in field of play. The other is Amoonguss, which is a 4 times resisted grass. Sinistcha not known for its offensive prowess, despite having a naturally high special attack here. No. We are seeing Incineroar come out.
Once again, we are seeing a reposition here. Pivot from Kaito, bringing in the Porygon 2 back onto the field. It is going to get that boost from its download. Side Pollen Puff, kind of reposition the Porygon back onto the field, going for that Pollen Puff straight away so that it can just heal it back up to a decent amount of health. Another Life Dew coming out from that Sinistcha, going to restore its own health back a respectable amount, and also, once again, going to keep that Basculegion around as much as possible. We will see if the Basculegion is going to wake up here, but it is going to be asleep for yet another turn.
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of preservation here and making sure all Pokemon remain as healthy as possible. With the Pollen Puff getting Porygon 2 back in. Even though taking that big hit, it's still looking as healthy as ever now, thanks to the Pollen Puff. The main attack that normally is ran on Amoonguss nowadays, being able to have a bonus effect if attacked into a partner healing. The Sinistcha being able to keep Basculegion healthy, as long as slowly get itself back up as well. And we are going to see more switches, Mark.
Yet another pivot from Kaito, just really trying to make sure his side of the board is as advantageous as possible. Bringing the Incineroar in once again, that is going to reduce the attack stat of that Basculegion, which means Basculegion, despite all those boosts from the Terastallization, from the rain, it's not going to be hitting nearly as hard as it was at the start of the game, with its attack stat intact and also having that Choice Band. We are going to see the Archaludon come in here, and it's really not going to take a whole heap from that Ice Beam, but it is going to get that defense boost from the Stamina. So that's quite good for Yuya's side of the field. And it looks like Basculegion is going to wake up here. It is going to go for I think that might actually be...
That is that wave crash.
That's
a critical hit.
It is a critical hit. It'll be interesting to see if that mattered. Obviously, it does still have that terrestrialization and the rain into that super effective hit. But, you know, having that without that choice band and with those intimidates, maybe that critical hit was necessary.
Oh no, hang on, my mistake. The Basque Legion has left the field. That was a flip turn.
It was a flip turn indeed. So quite possibly that critical hit did end up mattering there. But what we do know for sure is that Incineroar has been taken out.
Yeah, the Sinistro coming back in now, being able to heal all of the Archer-Ludon's HP lost from that Ice Beam. So effectively, Archer-Ludon coming in with a free +1 defense boost thanks to its stamina ability, while being able to remove Incineroar at the exact same time. Very solid positioning there for you. You can't be too upset about that.
No, not at all. I mean, you've got to be happy about that one. Basque Legion waking up there, I think very, very important. Had it been asleep for another turn, that would have allowed the Incineroar to switch out yet again, potentially go for a parting shot, which was, of course, slower in the Trick Room than the Basque Legion would have been in the rain. So parting shot, drop its attack stat even more, come back in for another Intimidate. So the fact that the Basque Legion was able to wake up there was almost crucial for Yuya in being able to turn the tide of this game.
So the response here from Kaito is going into the Goldango here, having a look to see what options can be going for here. The Goldango can have a look at potentially setting up a nasty plot. I do believe that the Archer-Ludon here can have the possibility to look at throwing off a Snarl, looking to semi-offset some of the nasty plot boosts that the Goldango can look to go for. The Amoonguss is out here on the field as well, I believe. Or is it the Porygon 2? I do believe it's the Porygon 2, so it could be a switch out here from that as well. Or potentially looking to stay in. Porygon 2, if on the field, can do probably a little bit of damage to the Sinistcha, but not too much. But yeah, as we're going to see, more repositioning here from the trainers.
Yep, so Kaito switching yet again, bringing that Porygon 2 out, and then bringing in the Amoonguss once again. Obviously, Amoonguss has the ability to regenerate it. It means it was able to heal when it went back to Kaito, so now it has come back to the field almost on full health. We're also going to see the switch from Yuya's side of the field. It looks like he's going to bring back in that Basque Legion with the Terra Water, and that Baxcalibur. That Archer-Ludon, as you mentioned, is going to go for that Snarl, reducing the special attack of that Amoonguss, but more importantly, of the Goldango.
And the Goldango, yep, going for that nasty plot. So offsetting that Snarl drop a little bit and getting a little bit of boost there, but not quite the +2 that the Goldango was looking for, but still +1. It'll definitely be happy to take that. Can look to fire off some big attacks here. We do see the Amoonguss coming back, so Amoonguss is both pressuring any sort of Rage Powder option to redirect attacks from the Goldango, but also got the option to potentially look at a Protect and Spore, looking to shut down one of these two big threats. Either one of these Pokemon can look at Switch Out and going into the Pelipper to look at resetting Rain and looking to provide big damage pressure again. With the Choice Band knockoff, without any Intimidator, with the Incineroar knocked out, not being able to come back during the Game 1, either one of these Pokemon can have a look at firing off some big damage. But we're seeing Protect from Goldango, no switches this turn.
No, not yet. Will depend on what the Basque Legion is going for here. So that's yet another Snarl from the Archer-Ludon, really not wanting that Goldango to start running away with those special attack boosts. However, that Protect is going to prevent the Goldango from being dropped yet again. The Basque Legion is not going to do anything as the Amoonguss goes for a Spore here, dropping that Archer-Ludon to sleep.
Yeah, the Basque Legion did look to go for an attack there. It went into the Goldango, so the Goldango was able to protect itself. So it's a very good protector from Kaito there, looking to protect the Goldango. And with the Archer-Ludon now asleep, it can't fire off any more Snarls, so Kaito does have the option to have a look at going for a Rage Powder to redirect any hit the Basque Legion might want to go for. The Basque Legion isn't generally a Pokemon that carries those spread moves that can hit both Pokemon on the opposing side of the field, generally looking for those single target attacks. So Amoonguss can come in and look to take those. Goldango is boosted, so it can have a look at firing off some big damage there. Whether it's going to look for that single target Shadow Ball to look at heading a big hit on either one of these two Pokemon, or looking for some spread damage on the Make It Rain. We are seeing the Archer-Ludon switch out here.
Yeah, so Archer-Ludon going to switch out despite having those defense boosts from the Stamina. It's instead just going to bring in the Pelipper, reset the Rain, try to get that damage back on that Basque Legion swings. We are going to finally see a Terrestrialization come out from Kaito's side of the field. That is going to be aimed at the Goldango, and there is going to be the Water Terrestrialization to keep it safe, probably from any last respects that might want to come out from that Basque Legion, and also from any water type moves, is now resisting those as opposed to them being a neutral hit. We are going to see that water type move come out from the Basque Legion. It looks like that is going to be the Wave Crash and is not quite going to do enough. That knockoff earlier, taking away its Choice Band, really coming in quite importantly there. Shadow Ball coming out from the Goldango into the Basque Legion. That is going to pick out the knockout.
They did knock out there from the Goldango there, looking to take out the Basque Legion. Basque Legion, we've seen all weekend, has been an absolute big damage dealer. Just being able to put on a lot of damage there, being able to take that out is quite nice. And we do see a Spore coming out there that could have potentially been put Basque Legion's way. However, with that one knocked out, it is going straight to the Pelipper. So now that's 2 Pokemon on Yuya's end. Fast asleep thanks to Amoonguss and its Spores.
Yeah, Amoonguss really demonstrating why it is so popular, especially amongst these high-level players, is they're just familiar with how devastating it can be. If you are able to start putting multiple of your opponent's Pokemon to sleep, they really have turns upon turns where they can't do anything at all. You know, there's a Pelipper that's asleep. Archelidon, if he brought it in, you know, that's also asleep, so you kind of almost had to bring in the Sinistcha here. Sinistcha, as you called out earlier, not really threatening a whole heap, although into this Water-type Golden Go, it is at least threatening some damage there with the Machagotcha.
Machagotcha, another one of those moves that is spread, so it is not affected by Rage Powder because it hits both Pokemon. But regardless, it's a grass type, so it also is immune to that as well. But we do see the Archeludon coming in here on that side of things. And we do see the Pelipper taking a sleep turn there.
Yep.
We're going to see the Goldango firing off the Shadow Ball that's going to go straight into the Assaultless Archeludon.
Ooh!
Doing a big chunk of damage there. Another one there will take out the Archeludon. And we're going to see a side Pollen Puff here being able to look at getting Goldango back to a healthy state of things.
That's
quite good for Kaido.
Yeah, very respectable damage on that Archelidon. The fact that it took it down to below half means that Archelidon is in range of a second, a 2-hit KO from that Shadow Ball. If he targets that slot again with another Shadow Ball, he is very likely to take it out. That Archelidon not having Protect, rather having that Assault Vest, means that it can't really do anything to prevent that. So, you know, if Kaido is able to get another Shadow Ball off, that Archelidon could be in serious trouble.
Yeah, I was just sort of thinking in the back of my mind is one thing that can be done is the Sinistcha Broad with that Hospitality being able to take it slightly out of range, but that is not the case. Both Pokemon remain asleep, and that's the Goldango with a big Shadow Ball there knocking out the Archeludon there. So now all that Yuya has on their side of the field is a sleeping Pelipper and a half HP Sinistcha, while the Goldango is all the way back at full thanks to the Amoonguss Pollen Puffs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Golden Go was low a couple of turns ago, quite possibly in range of being taken out by one of those Machagotchas as a super effective hit. Golden Go's back on full health. I think it's going to be very, very difficult for that Sinistcha to try to chip through all of that without Kaito's side just running through it. But we'll have to see what happens here. Rage Powder coming out from the Amoonguss to try to keep attacks away from that Golden Go. Pelipper is going to wake up and is going to set that Tailwind, which means the Sinistcha is likely to move first here. Sinistcha does, in fact, go for that Machagotcha. We will see how much damage this does to Kaito's side of the field. Quite little, if I'm honest. Even with that super effective hit into the Golden Go, that's really only going to do about 20%. It is going to get that healing for the Sinistcha, so it is going to have a bit more health there in order to perhaps tough out a couple of hits, but we will have to see what Kaito goes for here. That is the Shadow Ball coming out from the Golden Go. That is going to go into the Sinistcha. That is going to knock it out, which means it really just is Yuya's Pelipper versus the world.
Yeah, Yuya Pelipper versus the world. It's not the position that I believe the Pelipper wants to be right now. Had it been sitting on the field, it was asleep for those turns, and during those turns, every single one of its partners was just slowly dealt with the Goldango there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like that is going to be game one going to Kaito Ari. So we will have to see if Yuya decides to reposition, try for a different approach coming into game two.
Yeah, a lot of the slow, get the positioning right kind of a plays there coming out from both of our trainers there. The relatively early knockout on the Incineroar, offsetting any sort of intimidating for the Basque Legion coming forward, but Kaido was able to position its Goldango and Amoonguss incredibly well alongside the Porygon too, to be able to get it just slowly set up into that position where they are able to run through and slowly just pick off those big damage threats one by one to win that game one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, Yuya was actually in a really good spot, picking that knockout on that Incineroar, preventing it from getting that Intimidate cycle, preventing it from being able to bring it back in with more of those fake outs, those parting shots, and a lot of that really oppressive pressure that Incineroar was able to put out. Taking it out really early looked like things would be going really, really well for Yuya, but unfortunately for him, Kaito was just able to use his Amoonguss to great effect. Amoonguss, I would probably say, was the MVP in that game. Those Rage Powders, more importantly, those Spores just kind of really... sitting there, tanking things, switch out, regenerator, come back in, more full health, just really stopping Yuya from being able to do exactly what he wanted to do.
Yeah, absolutely right. I know that there's a lot of people that have been, ironically enough, the phrase sleeping on Amoonguss throughout preparation for this tournament, but you're seeing why that is the incorrect thing to do, as Amoonguss has gone through, did very well into the game one. We're going straight into the game two. Now, correct me if I'm incorrect, Mark, but are these the same leads from the game one?
These would be exactly the same leads from game one. So I imagine both players were thinking, you know what, I had a plan, I'm sticking to it. Kaito coming into this, I had a plan, it worked. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Yuya probably thinking, I had a plan, I maybe didn't execute it as well as I should have done, but I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, absolutely right there. So we're going to see what happens here. So last time we did see the fake out coming out onto the Pelipper. I do believe if the Pelipper is not the ghost type, so it is actually a stellar terrestrialized Pelipper, so it will always be prone to that fake out, which is why the option was done there for the game one. Potentially that might fall up again on this coming turn one, but no, we see the Incineroar switching out.
Yeah, yet again switching out. I think Kaido this time trying to preserve the Incineroar rather than having it be taken out by that Basculegion, bringing in the Amoonguss. There is the, I believe, flip turn from the Basculegion, dealing respectable damage to the Amoonguss and bringing the Basculegion out, just kind of keeping it safe, preserving it for later in the game where it can potentially come back out with that Choice Band and do more damage. Bringing in the Ursaluna Blood Moon here. This is new. This is not something we saw last game. With a ball into that and that is going to, again, deal decent damage to that Amoonguss. Porygon 2, going to get that Trick Room up, going to bring the speed really in Kaito's favor here.
Yeah, absolutely, Kaito's favor. Blood Moon Ursaluna, generally not the fastest Pokemon, but if you're talking about Pokemon that aren't too fast, we got to go old reliable Amoonguss. Amoonguss is one of the slowest Pokemon generally in the metagame, so now with that speed advantage up, it does have good opportunities to fire out some spores before Yuya can respond in good manner. So potentially with the Sinistcha in the back, there may be a possibility for that to come in on a correctly predicted spore there. We do see the Porygon 2 out here as well. The Porygon 2 can have a look to firing out some big attacks. It does have that Terra Blast. It does also have the Ice Beam as well that can throw into the Ursaluna. But we do see the Sinistcha coming out here.
So it looks like the Amoonguss is going for the Protect rather than the Spore. Potentially just trying to keep itself around, scout out what Yuya's doing before it starts throwing out those Spores. That is going to be an attack into the Amoonguss from the Ursaluna. And the Porygon is going to go for the Ice Beam into that slot. And that's going to do quite a bit of damage to that Sinistcha with that super effective hit.
Big damage there we do see now. It wasn't knocked off in this game, it was actually be able to eat the Citrus Berry. So Sinistcha has a little bit more health now, thanks to being knocked out. It looks like it is in range to take another Ice Beam if the Porygon 2 looks to do that. We do see that the Ursaluna, I do believe it might have potentially gone for that Blood Moon into the single target, into the Amoonguss. If that is the case, it won't be able to use that move this following turn. So potentially an option that Kaido has. But we do see the Blood Moon Ursaluna click Protect there.
Yeah, just really trying to keep it safe. Probably prevent itself from getting spored there. Stall out a couple more of those turns of Trick Room. That is an attack into the Ursaluna, and there is a second Ice Beam going out. The Sinistcha is going to be able to tough it up thanks to that.
Oh, but the freeze, Mark! The
it's
freeze.
frozen. It's frozen. No way. 10% chance on that Ice Beam to pick up the freeze. It has done it. We will see if Sinistcha is able to thaw. It is not going to be able to thaw out this turn. It is stuck. Frozen in place.
Oh,
that could genuinely be very brutal for Yuya's side, depending on what that Sinistcha was going for, depending on what it could be going for later in the game. It's really unclear how long it will take to thaw out. With the sleep condition, there's only a certain amount of turns you can be asleep before you guarantee to wake up. But with freeze, it's really just a coin flip every turn. It is going to switch out there. Frozen being very unfortunate for Yuya, so it is instead, he is going to bring in the Basculegion coming back in. There is going to be the Spore finally coming out from the Amoonguss. It is going to put that Ursaluna to Blood Moon to sleep, as we feared it might. And then the Porygon 2 is going to go, well, I guess we'll find out eventually. There's yet another Ice Beam. Hopefully not seeing another freeze into the Basculegion. We won't at this time.
Absolutely. What a rollercoaster of events there. The Frozen Sinistcha, even though it's frozen on low HP, it still has some value in its hospitality ability. It can come in as a safe switch in for something in the back while healing up a little bit of HP for a partner one more time if necessary. Very rough to see, but it could potentially still have some last little ditch effort use for Yuya if things work out in Yuya's way. Kaido still in relatively good shape. However, there is one more turn left to Trick Room, so after that, if the Basculegion comes back out, it can look at threatening some big damage. If the Ursaluna Blood Moon looks to wake up as well, it can do that. The Porygon 2, looking like something's going to be terrestrializing from Kaido's end, I believe, and it is the Porygon 2 that's going to become the fighting terrestrialized type.
That is a fighting Porygon 2, very standard. We see it very commonly on these teams, typically used to allow the Terra Blast to come through to hit the things that the normal typing wouldn't. Yuya with his own terrestrialization on his side of the field, that is going to be a terrestrialization on the Basculegion. Once again, terrestrializing that Basculegion just to get the extra damage on those water type moves, the Wave Crash, the Flip Turn, the Aqua Jet. And it looks like Yuya's really just trying to get as much damage out here as possible. That is, however, going to be a Spore into that Basculegion. It is unfortunately going to put it to sleep. Not going to be able to make use of that terrestrialization right away. And it looks like the Porygon 2 is sorry, the Ursaluna is still slower and is still asleep, unfortunately. Porygon 2 going for a Terra Blast that is going to be targeted into the Ursaluna. That is a super effective hit. It's not quite going to pick up the knockout. That is very lucky for Yuya there.
Yeah, just still an absolutely massive hit coming out there from the Porygon 2. The Ursaluna barely hanging in there. I do believe it has a couple turns left in there. It may potentially have an extra couple of turns or two. It is Life Orb, but it can potentially heal 25% of that HP back, depending on if the Sinister comes in and if that's the target selected for a potential Hospitality heal. Having 2 Pokemon asleep and 1 Pokemon frozen can't be good for you. You've got to be stressing out. This is game 2 of grand finals here at the Brisbane Regional Championships, and the last thing you want to be is down with a Pokemon frozen and 2 Pokemon asleep thanks to Amogus.
No, absolutely. And it looks like he is going to switch out the Ursaluna there, really probably hoping to be able to preserve it for as long as possible. Maybe it can come back in a time when it is safe to wake up. Pelipper coming back onto the field, setting that rain back up for that Basculegion to be able to make full use of it once it is awake yet again. It has already had 1 turn of sleep, so it is possible that it wakes up this turn. We're seeing an adjustment here from Kaito. Incineroar coming back in, dropping the attack stat of that Basculegion, threatening that fake out for that following turn. It looks like Basculegion is going to wake up here. And it is going to go for what I believe might be a Wave Crash. That is a Wave Crash coming out into the Porygon 2. Not picking up from the knockout, but it is going to pick up quite a lot of damage there. That is going to be an Ice Beam coming out from the Porygon 2. Once again, dealing more than half to that Pelipper there.
Yeah, so absolutely big damage there coming out here from the Porygon 2. Dealing just over that 50% to that Pelipper. The Basculegion threatening some big damage, however, as it is not a Ghost type anymore thanks to its Terrestrialization, Incineroar does have the option to look at faking out. But potentially looking at Yuya's side of things, they do have a big Wave Crash that could go Porygon 2's way. It does also have the Hurricane from Pelipper, which is a guaranteed accurate hit and rain. Can have a look at hitting that Fighting-type Pelipper, Fighting-type Porygon 2, sorry, which is weak to Pelipper's Hurricane.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the Basculegion here, weak to that fake out. The Porygon 2 also potentially in a position to set another Trick Room. However, it looks like it is going to switch out. It looks like Kaito is going to bring in what appears to be the Golden Go, revealing his 4th Pokemon that he has brought here. Incineroar is going to go for a fake out into that Basculegion, preventing it from moving this turn. Pelipper, however, we are going to see going for a Hurricane into what was the Porygon 2, but is instead going to hit the Golden Go, dealing a small amount of chip damage.
Yes, we do see that. They're coming in there, protecting the Porygon 2, knowing that there could be a potential Hurricane looking to come out there. Incineroar options, still quite a few. Can potentially look at swapping out, getting the Amogus back in as well. The Intimidates are going to be very useful, especially for that Basculegion. Just learning to slowly just keep mitigating that damage as much as possible. Just without being able to reset the weather or getting himself into quite the great position to look at knocking off a Choice Band or going for a knockout in that regard. There is the option for that. The Goldango is unfortunately not be able to become a water type in this game because the Terrestrialization has been used on Porygon 2 already from Kaito's side.
Yeah, exactly. So we do see that Pelipper switch out. Sinister coming back in, get that Hospitality onto that Basculegion, get it some healing, make use of that Sinister even while it is frozen. And looks like Basculegion is going to go for another Wave Crash. This does appear like it is going to go into the Incineroar slot. That is going to pick up the knockout. Even with that Intimidate drop, that Rain, that Terrestrialization, that Choice Band, that super effective hit, that is going to take you out.
Yeah, absolutely. Just all the multipliers are just adding up there. And we see the Shadow Ball coming out, what's initially going to be into that Pelipper, into that Sinister. Sinister coming in, as we mentioned before, potentially looking to come in, get a little bit of health back on something. It was the Basculegion looking to take, which is taking quite a lot of recoil from that Wave Crash and going in to get something else in safely. So utilizing that Frozen Sinister to the best of its possibilities, that's the level that we've got here from these two players here, from Yuya and from Kaito.
Absolutely. So that Shadow Ball coming out, finally taking that poor Sinister out of its misery by fainting it out of its frozen status. We've got the Pelipper come back into the field here. This could be threatening some decent damage on the Amogus with a Hurricane. Could also be threatening some damage on the Golden Go with a Weather Ball as well. Basculegion obviously threatening a lot of damage on that Golden Go, but the Amogus does have the option to go for that Rage Powder to keep the Golden Go safe, have any that Wave Crash that we know the Basculegion is locked into with its Choice Band, head straight to the Amogus, resisted hit, probably not going to do a whole heap, and is really going to give that Golden Go room to maneuver how it wants to do.
Yeah, so it looks like we do see the Amogus here looking to come in and go for that Rage Powder there, just looking to protect itself there. I do believe we're going to have a big Wave Crash coming out here, going straight into that. The Amogus is able to take that hit, Does it look like it's going to be a double up there? No, we're not going to find out just yet. Because the Amoonguss does have the Citrus Berry, there's so much healing happening in this grand final.
Going to get itself back in health. There is the Hurricane going into the Amoonguss. I imagine that is definitely going to pick up the knockout there. We will have to wait and see through some of our technical difficulties, but that is going to pick up the knockout on the Amoonguss. That is going to be Kaito's Amoonguss going down there, taking it just down to the Golden Goat and the Porygon too.
We will have to see what the Golden goes for. It looks like it's going for a Shadow Ball into that Pelipper, looking to take that off the field. So now it looks like it's just a two versus two. The Basculegion and the sleeping Blood Moon Ursaluna on very little health, going into the Porygon 2, which has taken quite a big hit, and the Goldango, which is still looking relatively healthy, but is anything truly healthy in front of a Choice Banded Rain Boosted Terrestrialized Wave Crash?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. You've got it's down to the 2v2. Yuya has a couple of damage threats on the side of his field, but unfortunately that Basculegion, very low health, likely to take itself out with the recoil from that Wave Crash. Ursaluna Blood Moon is still asleep. It has had one sleep turn. It is possible that it could wake up this turn if it does move before the Golden Goat. We are going to see that Wave Crash come out. That is going to be targeted into the Golden Goat. This is at -1. It's not going to matter. That is going to pick up a knockout onto that Golden Goat. If Yuya's Blood Moon is able to wake up here, this could be game over for game 2.
Absolutely right. So we are going to see the Basculegion take itself out from that recoil.
Yeah, that recoil. It was a big damage hit. It's taking 33% of that low health. It is going to take itself out here. We will see. That is the Ice Beam going into the Ursaluna. That is going to pick up the knockout. That is going to be game for Kaito Ari, and that is going to make him our Brisbane Regional Champion.
Oh, congratulations there to Kaito there. Absolutely well placed set between the two of them. What an absolute pleasure to cast. And let's go over some of the key points in that grand final there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those are some fantastic games to watch. I especially in Game 1. It really just was a masterclass of how these top-level players tend to play. You saw almost every turn, at least one Pokemon was switching out, typically on both sides. Just the repositioning. They've got two things in mind there. They want to just, in the immediate, make sure that their position on the field is as beneficial for them as possible. But the other thing they're thinking of as well is these people are thinking 5-6 turns ahead. They've really got to think, okay, what does this person have on their team? What do I need to preserve so that I'm able to beat them? You know, this Incineroar, am I going to need it in the late game? Am I going to need to be able to bring that back, to get that fake out, to get that Intimidate? And so you've got to, switch it out, and then maybe I bring it back because I want to preserve something else. And it's just this, it's almost like chess, the way they're maneuvering around the board, just trying to keep things in their favor as most as possible. We're just trying to see exactly how the board is going to look 5-6 turns down the line.
Absolutely. Do need to give some amazing credit to Yuya, though, despite coming second, utilizing in a board state where you had two sleeping Pokemon and a frozen Pokemon. That is 3 out of your 4 Pokemon with a status condition that prevents you from preventing you from doing anything at all on a board state. Being able to bring that back as close as it was during that game too, goes to show just how phenomenal of a player Yuya is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a regional finalist right there. He may have just lost this game, but he won all the way to the top here. So I think that's just, a demonstration of how much of an incredible player he is. And we've seen him performing time and time again at World Championships, at internationals, at regional level events such as this one. So just very well played to Yuya. Congratulations on becoming a regional finalist here at Brisbane. But of course, we can't go any further without shouting out Kaito Ari, our regional champion. The way he played was phenomenal.
Yeah. Beautiful gameplay, just beautiful team building, just never rushing into anything every single play, every single turn. Methodical, really well thought out. Just going, all right, this is what I need to do. How do I get myself into this position 3 to 4 turns down the line? It's all about these top-level players. You see a lot of trainers come into these events. They generally think turn in and they go turn by turn by turn. But you see from these top-level players that make these finals, that make these top cuts, they're thinking 3 or 4 turns ahead, just going, right, this is what I need to do to win this game, to win this set, to proceed further into the tournament. How am I able to execute that? And what do I need to do? What are the steps I need to take to reach it?
Exactly right. And you kind of, I experience this when I watch some of these players. I will be sitting there thinking, why did they do that? That doesn't seem like a particularly advantageous play. And then 3-4 turns down the line, they've still got a Pokemon around that they need for that exact situation, or, that they've still got that terrestrialization available to them for when they need it the most. And it's just really, really interesting to watch how these players think, really. So just, fantastically played. I was just entranced that entire game, basically. I think the MVP, I really have to say, was the Amoonguss on Kaito's side of the field. Just the number of Pokemon it was able to put to sleep. We've seen previously in other games throughout this tournament, these players running these more hard Trick Room teams, these teams where they want to get Trick Room set up and then they want to start slamming through the opposing teams with hard hitters like Hatterene and Torkoal. That was not at all what Kaito was doing here. We noticed each game set up Trick Room that first turn of the game, but it wasn't to start swinging with these hard hitters. It was just so that Amoonguss could be the first Pokemon moving on the field to get that Spore off right away, put the opposing Pokemon to sleep, and just make it much, much harder for Yuya to be able to do what he needs to do with his Pokemon all sleeping on the job.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could see that just with the two Pokemon that were primarily during the early and even the middle of the game during that game too. It was all Porygon 2 and Amoonguss. And most of the time it wasn't even looking at, we need to keep our bulky Pokemon healthy by going for Pollen Puffs and Recovers. It was going for those Spores and just for those big hits from that Porygon 2, because Porygon 2 is no slouch when it comes to dealing some damage.
Absolutely not, especially when it is able to leverage its ability download to get a special attack boost. That is outputting a heap of damage. As we saw, those Ice Beams were no joke. That's not even getting that same type of attack boost, but it was still putting out a lot of damage and a freeze in one case, which was very unfortunate for Yuya's side of the field. But and those Terra Blasts as well, I think, were definitely something to shout out. The ability that the Porygon 2, rather than using a defensive terrestrialization that turn, to go for an offensive one, to recognize that Ursaluna Blood Moon could end up being a major threat if left unchecked. He decided, you know what, I am going to terrestrialize my Porygon 2, and I'm just going to slam it with a Terra-fighting Terra Blast, get that super effective hit in, take it down to low health, so that in the end game, I am actually able to pick it up at the end, keep the Porygon safe. Because that was very, very close. If the Ursaluna was actually able to stick around at that very end, the return hit to the Porygon 2 would have taken that game to Yuya. So it was just really important that Kaito was able to recognize that as a threat, go for that Terra Blast, take it down to low hit points, so that in the end game, he was actually able to win that one out.
Yeah, it was very well executed there, and it was an absolute delight to watch and cast. However, it looks like we might be going back to a quick break before we wrap up the regional event. So stay tuned, we'll be with you shortly.
Welcome back, trainers. I am joined here with our Brisbane Regional Champion, Kaito Ari. Kaito, congratulations. Well done on becoming our 2026 Brisbane Regional Champion. How are you feeling after that win?
今回ブリスベンリージョナルビデオゲーム部門で優勝されましたリー・カイト選手です。改めましておめでとうございます。では本日率直なお気持ちをお伝えください。
やっぱ素直に嬉しい気持ちがやっぱ大きくて、しばらく公式の大会では結果を残していなかったので、本当に2年ぶりぐらいにちゃんとした結果を残して非常に嬉しいです。
So honestly, I'm very happy with the outcome, with the result. I haven't been playing well. It's been 2 years that I actually came to this top cut. So I'm just honestly very happy about the result.
Right, well, congratulations. That's a really good result for coming back from so far. I have to say, Paul and I, when we were casting, we absolutely loved casting that match. And we really want to know, which Pokemon did you find most useful in that final match in achieving that victory?
キャストのポールとこちらのキャストさんの2人でずっと配信をしてきて、本当に対戦の内容が楽しくて仕方なかったんですけれども、実際この対戦の中でこの活躍したポケモンって何だったんですか？
やっぱりサーフ号が一番活躍したポケモンですね。で、これちょっとまた後で言うかもしれないですけど、万事の実っていうあまり持たせてない持ち物を出したことによって結構勝った試合が多かったので、それが非常に良かったというか活躍した部分です。
So my honestly, Golden Girl was the best attacker, who did the best job throughout the whole the whole team.
Okay.
Especially because I had the spice. It was an Aqua Berry.
Okay.
Aqua Berry. I might mention this a bit later, but Aqua Berry is type of item that nobody else, I believe, was holding. Nobody else's Golden Girl was holding on to.
Okay, yeah. Well, definitely an unseen item. So you're right, very spicy there. A good pick. I'm glad to hear that was doing so well for you. We do want to shout out the Kilowattrel. Kilowattrel, we love in Australia. We're all very big fans. We've talked about it a lot over the course of this tournament, and I'm stoked to see it become a regional champion. What made you want to put Kilowattrel on your team?
間違いなくですね、サーフ号に持たせてたバンジーの実っていうのは、他の選手が持たせていなかったものだと思いますので、素晴らしいチョイスだったと思います。で、質問がちょっと変わりまして、大会伝がですね、オーストラリアの中では大人気で、非常にこう分析されていますというか、分析とか、勉強、みんなオーストラリアの人たちがいろいろ確認し、勉強させてもらっているというところなんですけれども、大会伝を入れた理由。Was it the reason you put the kilowatt?
Yes.
Yeah. 大会伝をチームに入れた理由というのを教えていただいてよろしいでしょうか。
もともと私が使っている6匹っていうのはもともと強いフォーマットとして存在していて、その中で、最後の一枠が大会伝。これは、プレイヤーによって結構違うポケモンだったりするんですけど、大会伝を選んだ理由は、この構築で、効果抜群を取れない水タイプ、相手の水タイプを触る役割として、電気タイプが複合している大会伝を選んでいた感じです。
So the 6 Pokemons I added into my party, into my team, which was Orceruna, Amoonguss, Porygon2, Galdingo, and Inseria, plus Kilowattrol is the top 6 Pokemon. That would be, I mean, I know that these Pokemon is like a team that does well. But however, Kilowattrol is actually, the pick for Kilowattrol would probably depend on the player. So I picked the Kilowattrol as a 6th Pokemon. The reason is because the rest of the 5 Pokemon cannot do super effective attacks against a water Pokemon. So he wanted to add an electric Pokemon that can do electric attacks, which is a super effective attack for water Pokemon. So that is the reason why I added Kilowattrol into my team.
Great, fantastic. Well, I mean, we saw Kilowattrol do that to great effect over the course of the tournament. So clearly, you've got the right way of thinking there. Your team, did you come up with it yourself, or did you team build with other people? Did you copy it from somewhere else? How did you come up with your team?
大会伝のピックは今間違いなくその水タイプに対して有効であるというところですごくいいチョイスをされたと思うんですけれども、実際にチームを構築するにあたってご自身一人で全てのチームを作り上げたのか、例えばお友達と一緒に対戦して調整していく中で作り上げていたのか、どのようにしてパーティーを作り上げていったんですか？
チーム自体は、自身で作成したんですけど、その中で、結構他のプレイヤーと対戦はしてたんですけど、大会が近づいてきたときに、仲のいい友達に調整を手伝ってもらって、BO3 の調整を手伝ってもらって、ここにいるので、間違いなく自分だけだと達成できなかったことだと思います。
So the first original idea of the team, the concept came from him. But of course, he had to do a couple of text things. He did that with his friends. And he did have to change a little bit, of course, because according to his test results. And best of 3 is also not like a popular way of matching in Japan. So that's what he wanted to say. So he had to practice the best of 3 style.
Yeah.
So of course, the original idea came up from him, but he couldn't have accomplished this result only by himself.
Yeah, of course. It's always great to have those people helping you out. And imagine, especially coming from Japan, where they typically only play best of 1, coming to an area such as Australia, where we do best of 3, that would be quite an adjustment. So, very well done for adjusting in that way. So now that you have won the Brisbane Regional Championships, that gives you an automatic invitation to the World Championships in 2026. Are you planning on attending?
間違いなくですね、その調整がなければ、作れなかったチームだと思いますし、そのチーム調整に手伝っていただいたところに感謝の気持ちっていうところもあると思うんですけれども、今回ですね、そのブリスベンの大会で1位を取ったということで、自動的に世界大会への出場権利が付与されるという状況になりました。実際世界大会には参加される予定でしょうか？
待ち望んでいたことなので絶対に出ると思います。
he has been dreaming about attending the World Championships. So definitely I will be attending.
Great. Well, that's fantastic to hear. It's so good to always see players, reaching their goals, winning, and being able to achieve their dreams of competing. So this is so awesome to hear. Before we wrap up, do you have anyone you want to shout out? Obviously, you had your teams helping, your friends helping you with your team building. Is there anyone else that you'd like to shout out? Any call outs that you'd like to make before we wrap up?
間違いなく、世界大会を目指す選手は多いというところで、勝利を勝ち取りました。で、ですね、その最後感謝を伝えたい、シャウトアウトって言うんですけれども、誰か感謝を伝えたい方がいたらこの場で教えてください。
もちろんさっき、調整してくれた、日本の友達と、今日、一緒にここに連れてきてもらった日本人の選手たち、4人いるんですけど、その方たちに感謝を伝えたいです。はい、日本から出るの自体も初めてなんで、そこからもう全部面倒見てもらったので、本当に頭が上がらないです。
So I would like to shout out to my friends who did the testing, who helped me with testing, and then the other Japanese players. There's 4 of them who attended to Brisbane Regionals with me, and for him, for Kaito, apologies. For Kaito, it was actually his first time that he actually went outside of Japan. So it was a bit of a challenge as well. So
Sure.
of course, there was a lot of things that he had to overcome. He definitely has to say thank you to everyone who supported him.
Awesome. Well, that's really good to hear. Kaito, thank you so much. Congratulations again on becoming the Brisbane Regional Champion. Very well done. Good luck at the World Championships 2026. Thanks so much for stepping in and helping us out. We'll be right back to wrap things up. But thank you once again for joining us, and thank you for joining us so far throughout the tournament.
Thank you.
Hello again, trainers. Can I just say, what an amazing finals that we just witnessed there. To be honest, all of the games that we had to feature and all the games that even weren't featured, the level of talent was just simply amazing, wasn't it?
It's getting better and better every year, Harry, and it was an absolute pleasure to cast this weekend with all the casters and everyone involved. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and this is only the first regional in the Oceania circuit. We've got a few more down the track, and it's only the beginning of the season. There's so much more in store, and I could not be more excited to see where we go from now. But of course, it wasn't just us. There's a lot of people behind the scenes who put in a lot of work to make this incredible tournament available for all the viewers at home.
Yes, absolutely right. So first of all, we're going to give some quick thank yous before we go off. So we're going to give a big thank you to our staff, the judges and tournament organisers that run these events. These events definitely do not happen without them looking to make any rulings, to make sure everything runs just as smoothly as possible. So a very big thank you to them. Taking the time out of their weekend to do this for us so we can play these events as players and casters now is absolutely fantastic. I want to give a big shout out to our producers here. We had Shivam and Miss Mystic. They did an absolutely phenomenal job over the weekend here working with us here to bring you at home the greatest show that we could possibly bring coming from you from Brisbane this weekend. We do have to give a big shout out to Josh, PvP Steve, for those a bit more involved in the Pokemon Go community. They have had Pokemon Go streams happening for a little while here now, and they have helped us get the ball rolling. So if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be out here doing this as well. I do want to give a quick shout out to the casters here, myself, I suppose. Big shout out to Harrison here as well, alongside Jack, who's working alongside, and Mark, most specifically for writing this list that we are reading off the shout outs to. So big thank you, Mark Murray, for that one. We do want to give a big shout out to the players as well. Obviously, without players, there's no tournament. And if there's no tournament, well, we're not here to bring you the action this weekend. So big thank you to all the players, everyone that played on stream, off stream, even going in if you're only able to play a few rounds and have to leave for other events. We do appreciate all you coming up to say hi to us casters while we were on the floor there. It was absolutely great. A lot of kind words from you players as well. So thank you for attending. And a big one as well, thank you to you, the audience, for watching and supporting us. We're getting the ball rolling here with these streams, and we're hoping to bring you many more throughout the future. So thank you for watching, and hopefully you stay with us through this journey, especially for our 2026 season here.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much to all the viewers. I hope you could have enjoyed it just as much as we did, because I know we had an absolutely great time. And do you know what else had a really great time? Killer Watchful. Finally, The Australian bird. I don't know if we could call that, but I don't know. Australians seem to love it. Last time it came second in Regulation H, and finally, Killer Watchful, one of my classes picks that one, so I'm happy about it. But Killer Watchful showing its strength in that finals. So thank you so much for viewing, and that's all we've got time for this weekend.
Yeah,